Demetrius Jamel Morant, normally known as Ja Morant, the exponentially controversial superstar point guard for the Memphis Grizzlies, who, by the way, are playing like absolute trash right now with Ja being away from the team. There aren't any other players on his level of talent who are generating as much controversial buzz as he is right now. There are other controversial players in the league right now, but none of them are as big of a superstar as Ja Morant is, and none of the other players are able to capture the entire basketball world's attention like Ja did so many times over the last 8 months or so. This guy is at the same time one of the most admired and beloved superstars in the world, while also being one of the most divisive and controversial figures that we have had in sports in a long time. He is a magnet for headlines and hot takes.
Yeah, this time you're not saying I would have cooked her.
I would have cooked them too.
You would have cooked Michael Jordan?
Man, nobody got more confidence than 12.
Stop it. Get some help.
Throughout this incredibly long video that took so very much time to make, I plan on talking about pretty much every major controversy that Ja has been involved in that was not an on-the-court confrontation. And there are plenty of Twitter interactions that I ignored, because this video is about all of the off-the-court problems that were major enough to generate headlines, of which there are many, which is partly why this video is so long, because there is a lot of context to go over. The other reason this video is so long is because I like to write, and I like to talk, and there is quite a bit of extra shit that I want to say on top of the actual drama. But all of my extra opinions won't be until after we get done talking about all of the important stuff. And because these are my videos, I plan on saying every goddamn thing I can think of that is relevant to this whole story, without it getting repetitive or boring. But I will guarantee you right now that there will be some repetition, but I promise I am trying to keep that to a minimum. Anyway, I'm going to give you the facts, and I'm going to give you the rumors, and I'm going to give you all the speculation I can think of, because that's what I want to talk about. And that's what I have not seen other creators talking about. Most of the creators who talk about this stuff only bring up what happened and maybe a few quick comments to go along with it, and they move on to the next thing, leading them to releasing 15 to 30 minute long videos that do not fully cover everything there is to cover. I'm not saying that the other videos out there are bad, I'm just saying that there isn't enough context for me to be satisfied. I'm going to add as much context as I can, and I'm going to add little nuggets of wisdom that I find interesting or relevant to whatever we are talking about at the moment. And I'm also going to speculate as much as I want at every turn, but I am also not going to accuse or defame Ja by saying that he did something that he did not actually do. I will most certainly speculate, but my language will be clear that it is speculation and not an accusation. Think of this video as a one-sided bar story that is being told by an opinionated smartass who thinks he is much more intelligent than he really is. And he also never shuts the hell up. And the guy is also a bit of a jerk who tends to see only the worst in the people he talks about. If all that sounds like something that you would be interested in, you are probably a masochist, and you should really get some help for that. Fortunately for me, I know for an absolute fact that there are millions upon millions of masochists out there who just might be crazy enough to enjoy the bloviating and rambling that I have in store for you in this video today. I just have to hope that the algorithm shows my video to all you sick bastards out there who like to torture their own ears for hours on end. Ja is easily one of the most electrifying and entertaining players in the NBA right now. Fast-paced moves, flashy passes, slick steals, great rebounding, the craziest dunks you could imagine, and an ever-improving three-point shot. Ja has tons of highlights because so much of what he does is entertaining to watch, but I am not completely sure that his particular style of basketball is one that will lead to a championship. But it is fun to watch and makes for a whole hell of a lot of highlights, which is going to result in a lot of fans and a lot of money being made for the NBA. And Ja is still so young yet, he has plenty of time to develop his game and fill in the gaps that he is lacking. He is still in the very beginning of his career, so the story is far from over with, and he will be able to rehabilitate his image as time goes on, but he will never fully get away from the stuff that he did. Ja Morant was the second overall pick in the 2019 draft behind his former teammate, Zion Williamson, and there is still tons of debate going on about who should have been picked first. Ja was the Rookie of the Year winner in 2020, and many would argue that he is a top 10 player in the NBA right now, even though ESPN just recently ranked Ja number 35 on their top 100 active players list, which is much lower than what the internet expected it to be, which is why the internet is abuzz with people debating Ja's ranking on that list. Almost everyone thinks that he should have been placed much higher than number 35, and I agree with them, but I would have put him at like 15 to 18 right now. Maybe a few spots lower because of all the drama, but not all the way down to 35. That's just too low. Anything lower than top 20 is too low for Ja, if you ask me, and most NBA fans agree. But you don't need ESPN to tell you that Ja is really, really good on the court. All you need to do is watch him play, and you'll find that out for yourself very quick. This dude really is something special, and I can't stress that enough.
He comes at everyone. fearlessly. He ain't playing.
I wanted you guys to hear me say all of those positive things about him before I really started to go in on Ja throughout this video. I am not going to flatter, and I am not going to make excuses for his reckless and sometimes dangerous behavior. So I don't want anyone to be surprised when you hear me say stuff about him that is not so nice. I am giving you a fair warning right now. If you are a Ja Morant megastan, you probably won't want to watch this video. I am here to tell an entertaining story, and I plan on telling it like it is, from my perspective, through my own personal lens. And I plan on speaking my mind every step of the way. This is my video after all, so strap in for a long ride, because this video is going to take a while. And make sure to like and subscribe like I've said like 3 times now, so you can light a fire under my ass to make even more videos at a faster pace. And if you really like what I do, make sure to check out my Patreon. It's linked in the description down below. And also follow me on Twitter, or X, or whatever you want to call it. But without further ado, let's get started with the nearly endless Ja Morant drama saga.
Actions speak very louder than words, so.
Ja Morant was warned.
4 stories came out. That means there's 40.
Promised Adam Silver, this will not happen again.
Made a bad mistake. It's not who I am. I don't condone any type of violence.
It's a parade inside my city, yeah!
The best apologists change behavior.
He saw the camera in his face.
But this is so reckless.
Shouldn't matter whether or not it's a real gun.
I need somebody to tell me the fascination he has with guns.
I'm fine in the West.
He's struggling with an identity crisis. He wants to be something he's not. He wants to be a gangster. What he wants to be is unfortunately something that could cost him his life or his career.
This is a superstar. This is a bona fide superstar in this league.
Like, you put yourself in this position.
It would make me feel better if they came out tomorrow and said, yo, he's got a problem with drugs.
Let's start with some of the basics of the drama that Ja has been involved in. He has been in the news a whole hell of a lot over the past year. There have been well over 10 separate occasions where Ja Morant did something that made the news. And these are not just frivolous news stories that should have never been written. These events were pretty much all genuinely newsworthy. This video's entire purpose is to chronicle those events. I'll be explaining in detail what happened to the best of my knowledge. I've done extensive research on all of these events, and I've tried my hardest to make sure that they are in order and accurate. But I am sure that there will still be some mistakes. I am a one-man show over here for the time being, so there are bound to be mistakes. Anyway, Ja Morant's long and storied drama history is a subject that I find to be both fascinating and frustrating. I think it makes for a fantastic video subject, but that comes at the cost of what could have been a shining basketball career. So I can't help but feel a little bit bad about all of this. It's both hard and satisfying to see someone destroy their legacy, which is why so many millions of people were paying such close attention to this story. Humanity has a perverse obsession with seeing other people mess up their lives. So it makes sense why Ja's escapades were such massive stories in the news. To be fair though, Ja Morant was not headline news until the very end when he pulled out a gun at the strip club. Before that, news outlets were reporting on the stuff that he was up to, but it was not front page news until there was a video for the world to see. But now that the story has completely blown up and millions upon millions of people know about Ja's stupidity, there are a lot more eyes paying attention to this drama saga, which makes for a great opportunity for a YouTube video. And I know for a fact that I'm not the only one talking about this, but that's alright though. The more people that are talking about this, the more that the overall drama legend grows, and that's okay with me. Now, because of this interesting drama saga, Ja's legacy will forever be tainted, no matter how hard he tries to rehabilitate his image, no matter how many fans he takes pictures with, no matter how many shoes he gives away, and no matter how much public outreach that he does, he will always be reminded of the dumb shit that he did on camera. And whenever anyone wants to discredit Ja as an irresponsible fool, they will have plenty of evidence of past bad behavior to prove their point. So when I say that his legacy is tainted, I mean it is tainted. It's not completely beyond repair, but the stain is never going to go away. I don't think Ja would be able to scrub his reputation clean, even if he was to win 7 rings within 10 years. That amount of success would certainly overshadow his past mistakes, but it would never fully get rid of them, and that is all very unfortunate. But Ja really only has himself to blame at the end of the day. His punishment for his actions is to be the butt of the joke in the comments section of every video that he has mentioned in.
I deal with it, so.
There will always be jokes like these when Ja Morant is brought up. We will talk more about who else is to blame later on, but the fact of the matter is this: Ja will never fully get out from under the cloud that he created for himself. This whole story that I am going to be talking about today is a media relations nightmare that Ja voluntarily put himself into, even after being warned more than once.
Ja Morant was warned.
which is why I don't feel bad at all for talking about this stuff. If Ja was a private citizen that had an unfortunate situation thrust upon him through no fault of his own, then I might feel bad about using his life as a subject for a video. But this whole mess was created by Ja himself, and he is not a private citizen. He is a mega superstar in the NBA, and he is a fair target for criticism, no matter how much his army of sycophants wishes that that was not the case. I'm sorry, but Ja is just too goddamn rich and famous to be treated like he is just some normal guy, and the stuff he did makes for an entertaining video. So I don't want to see anyone in the comments saying crap like, "Leave Ja alone, he's just a kid, let him make his mistakes." That's all some bullshit, and I don't want to hear it. From my point of view, Ja is fair game, and if I ever get to even a 10th as big as Ja Morant is, I'll be considered fair game too, and I am perfectly okay with that. With all of that being said, I still sincerely hope that Ja stays out of the news and focuses exclusively on basketball. Mostly because I want my video to stay as up-to-date as it can for as long as possible, but also because I think Ja is a great basketball player who is super fun to watch. I don't like seeing anyone throw away a successful career, even though I can't look away, and that's not going to stop me from making my video. No one is absolved from criticism. If you do dumb stuff, you'll have to live with the fact that people like me are going to make uncharitable YouTube videos about you. That is just the nature of the internet. Timestamps are always somewhere on the page. Feel free to use them, as long as you subscribe to my channel and like the video first. But don't you dare go near them timestamps until you do, goddammit. I'll be watching to make sure. You don't know how I will be watching, but I will. So you better just subscribe already. And I'll also work a lot faster if you subscribe. So it would also benefit you by giving you more videos to torture your poor ears with, since you are all a bunch of crazy masochists. I also want to quickly say that I won't be talking about basketball itself very often, because that's just not within the scope of this video. This is already going to be long enough as it is. So I'm going to stick to the drama, and maybe next time when there isn't so much information to cover, maybe then I can do some more basketball analysis. The very last thing that I want to say is that Ja Morant is also responsible for doing plenty of good things. I do not want to discount that. I'll be spending the next 2 hours or more basically talking shit about Ja Morant, but that does not mean that he is not capable of good. He very much is. He does plenty of charity work, and he is always making some kid's day by signing shoes or jerseys or basketballs or all three. I do not intend to diminish the good things that Ja has done. As Stannis Baratheon once said, the good does not wash away the bad, and the bad does not wash away the good.
The good act does not wash out the bad, nor a bad the good.
Part 1, Internet History. The first thing that I want to talk about today is Ja Morant's internet history. I won't spend too much time on this because we need to keep things moving, but it is important to mention. Ja's activity on the internet began, as far as we know, when he was around the age of 13, give or take. Most of the time at this age, Ja would take some goofy-ass selfies and post them on Instagram, which in itself is harmless, but the reason this is relevant is because of the captions he would put on his pictures. Almost every selfie that he took had something like this for a caption. It was always some kind of drinking or smoking reference that he didn't know a damn thing about, and still doesn't, if we're all being honest with each other here. Ja is an athlete. It's not like he's smoking shit and drinking all the time. He might dabble a little bit here and there, but he don't really hang, at least when it comes to the smoking. When it comes to drinking, on the other hand, Ja can put it back. I'll give him that. But a lot of the time on his captions on Instagram, he would be referencing smoking weed or fucking coke or whatever else that he'd reference. You know, like anything that he could think of that would make him look hood, he would put on his captions. For anyone else in the world, these old posts wouldn't really mean anything. People do dumb stuff when they're kids. As long as they grow out of it as an adult, no one cares what you did when you were a kid. But when it comes to Ja Morant, I think these old posts are especially relevant. It shows that even all the way back to being a teenager, Ja saw himself as a thug, or at the very least, he wanted to be perceived that way by other people, which might shed some light on why Ja did what he did when he became an adult. I'm not saying that Ja's internet history is the main reason for his recent bad behavior, but it was certainly a sign of what was to come, and it was a sign that many people, including myself, completely missed until after he did what he did. To be fair, he wasn't really making a lot of violence references as a kid. It was mostly drugs and alcohol. It wasn't until later on that Ja started to act like a tough guy. So it's not like we could have seen this coming by watching his internet activity and paying attention to what he does. No one thought that Ja was going to do what he did. Around the age of 15 or 16, Ja would abandon his Instagram and really begin to focus on basketball. Thankfully, the first real sign of violence that Ja showed was actually on Twitter, where he threatened the life of a random troll for saying something that he didn't like. And most of the time on Twitter, Ja is just reposting other people's stuff, and occasionally responding with an emoji to something here or there. But on this occasion, Ja could not hold back when he saw some random dude on Twitter talking shit to one of his side pieces. Here is the full exchange. Clearly, you can see that the troll was just being a troll, and really wasn't worth responding to in the first place. But for whatever reason, Ja was feeling particularly combative that day. Either that, or Ja and Marceli Pena had a much more serious relationship than we all thought, because Ja was angry enough to make threats on another person's life over the small insults that person said. That troll said that Ja was pussy whipped, and I'm starting to think that he was right, because only someone who's really insecure or really pussy whipped would embarrass themselves online over comments like this troll said. And the comments weren't even really that bad either, by the internet's standards anyway. And what makes matters even worse is the cringe-ass way that Ja threatened this guy's life. It wouldn't have been so bad if Ja had said something funny or clever, or somewhat creative at least, or realistic. He would not have sounded like such an idiot. Anything would have been better than what he chose to say. Anything at all, really. But he chose to say the most uninspired, downright stupid drivel that I've seen on the internet in a while. It's free to to See How Hollows Feel is about as dumb and cringe as you get, if you ask me. It feels very reminiscent of Xbox Live in 2009. That's the kind of comeback you would hear after killing a 12-year-old in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. When Ja first said this stupid crap, no one thought much of it because, of course, Ja isn't going to shoot anyone. He's an NBA superstar and will be throwing away his life for absolutely nothing. So everybody knew that he wasn't going to do a damn thing about it. This statement was purely performative, and again, everyone knew it. Though it did make some people worry about what he might do next. And those worries were very much justified, as you will see very soon. The last thing I want to say about this subject is that it's free to see how hollows feel is also just plain false. I mean, this is a minor point, but I feel I have to make it. I'm a nitpicker and I have to nitpick. Hollow point bullets are not free, Ja. They might be really cheap for someone as rich as you, but it takes a ridiculous amount of manufacturing capability to be able to make bullets as cheap as they are. And not to mention the lawyer costs that come with shooting anyone for any reason ever, even if it is self-defense. If you shoot someone, you're paying for a lawyer, period. Bullets simply are not free in any way. I mean, Ja should already know this, but because he is objectively not very smart, this is the best that he can come up with. It just doesn't occur to him that the words he's typing are just, dumb. Needless to say, I am not very impressed by this comeback at all, and I wish that he had never written these words. Fortunately for Ja, no one really cared about this tweet, and it was basically forgotten about until Ja did what he did later on. After that, everyone began looking at his past all over again, and that's when most people realized just how tone-deaf this tweet really was, as well as the rest of his internet history going back as far as 13 years old. The only other thing I want to bring up when it comes to Ja's internet history is this video that Ja posted to his Instagram story where he claims that he was hanging out with them members, as he puts it. I don't believe that he was actually hanging out with any real gang members, but Ja is obsessed with being perceived as a gangster, so he goes around making posts like this. If he was actually hanging out with real gang members, that's an even bigger problem that needs to be addressed. Though I would be somewhat impressed if Ja actually had the balls to hang out with real gang members. Even though it would be the worst thing he could do for his basketball career, I would still be kind of impressed, not gonna lie. But let's not kid ourselves here. He was not really hanging out with gang members in this video. I just don't believe that for a second. He was just trying to make everyone think he was. That's my guess. That's what I think. I could be wrong about that, but, I'm making a judgment call here. I don't think he was really hanging out with anybody that was, really part of the streets. One thing that this video makes me think, though, is that there is actually some merit to the idea that Ja should be traded out of Memphis. If he is really going around associating with gang members, which he wasn't, it would probably be for the best if Ja's career was moved away from that city. No offense to Memphis. I know there's a lot of good people there, but for someone like Ja, it is not a good environment. This video is solid evidence that he is associating with the wrong parts of Memphis. Or at the least, he is pretending to associate with the wrong side of Memphis. And if the temptation is there at all, that's a problem. I'd rather he be in a city where there isn't the temptation to go hang out with gang members at all. And given everything else that Ja has done over the last year or so, there is a strong case to be made that maybe it is for the best that Ja goes to another team, even though the Grizzlies would never realistically trade Ja. He is just too good of a player, and the Grizzlies would lose in any trade that they made unless it was for a serious superstar. And no real superstars want to go to Memphis, let's be honest. So Ja is going to stay in Memphis, for better or for worse. I just hope that he doesn't release any more stupid-ass videos like this one, where he pretends that he is something that he never will be. All of these gangsters are watching Ja on TV, wishing that they could trade places with him, and here Ja goes, posting shit on Instagram, acting like he is part of the hood, when he grew up in Dalzell, South Carolina, where you're more likely to see cows than you are gang members.
And real gangsters may test him.
Yes.
Because you're putting it out there like you in this world, and this is what you do, and this is where you come from, even though we know you didn't. Now a lot of them might test him, and he could get hurt, or worse, he could hurt somebody, or worse.
The last Twitter post that I want to talk about is this barely legible crap right here, where Ja says one of the dumbest and most concerning things that I've seen him say on the internet. This indecipherable monstrosity of a tweet right here should have never seen the light of day, if you ask me, because there is no realistic upside for Ja to say crap like this in public, but he can't seem to stop himself either. Every time I read this tweet, it makes my eye twitch in frustration, mostly because of how poorly and stupidly it's written, but also because of the implication that this post comes with. If Ja really does believe his own stupid-ass words, that means that he has some serious delusions about how he is actually perceived by the world, and I think that is a big contributor to his recent bad decisions that we are here to talk about in this video. I sincerely hope that Ja was just talking shit with this post, because it would be a real problem if Ja actually believed this crap. If Ja really thinks that he is a gangster, and he really won't speak out on it like he says, then that means that there really is no hope for this dude. However, that is assuming that the phrase won't ever speak out on it means that he refuses to denounce his gangster thug image. But it's entirely possible that the phrase won't ever speak out on it actually means something else completely, which is why it is so important that you choose your words carefully, so you don't have people like me ripping out their hair trying to decipher gibberish phrases like this one. If you think Ja meant something different, feel free to let me know in the comments. I mean, there is a bunch of possibilities on what he actually meant. Anyway, this tweet is disturbing because it would be a genuine problem for the NBA if he really meant these words. Ja is a superstar, and could have been the face of the league if he did not have this weird obsession with being a gangster.
I'm one of the hood members, man.
And the NBA is going to need a fresh face very soon. LeBron James doesn't have much time left, and Steph Curry is getting older too. So there are a lot of people out there hoping that Ja can rehabilitate his image somehow. You would think that once Ja became a household name, he would have let go of his dreams of being a thug. But, unfortunately, like he says in the tweet, he's been on that, he's still on that, and it remains to be seen if he will ever speak out on it or not. I hope he does, it, because there really is literally no valid reason Ja could have for wanting to be a gangster. That's like a king idolizing a mayor. Both positions come with certain perks and status within society, but being a basketball player is on a whole nother level of luxury, fame, and status. So it makes literally zero sense for Ja to idolize the gangster thug lifestyle. Isn't it a million times better to be a professional basketball superstar with the love of the whole world than it is to be a fucking gang member living in a trap house, always having to look over your shoulder and worry about who might come gunning for you next, as well as being absolutely reviled by society for being such a nuisance? I can't see one reason why Ja would be envious of the gangster thug lifestyle.
Gangbang is a life where you gotta watch at all times around you.
Right.
You gotta watch the people you around.
And honestly, the fact that Ja feels that way is dangerous in and of itself, because there are millions of kids out there who are actively mimicking Ja with everything he does. And if Ja wants to be a gangster, then so do the millions of kids looking up to him. And that is why it is such a huge responsibility to be an NBA superstar. Kids of all ages watch basketball very closely. Anything basketball players do is going to be repeated by the kids watching. So it's a real, genuine problem when someone like Ja Morant starts glorifying the gangster thug lifestyle. Ja can do anything a gangster can do, and a whole lot more besides that. With access to the kind of money that he has, Ja could one day become one of the most powerful people in the world if he invests his money the right way. But I mean, we all know that's not going to happen. So why is this dude looking up to thugs and gangsters? It just doesn't make any sense.
You want to be them and they want to be you.
Yes.
You the one that's up 300 million, Ja.
You would think that Ja would have more ambition than that. But if there is one thing that is true about people, it's that they never fail to disappoint. Let's move on though, shall we? We've spent enough time on this subject. There is more stuff that he's done and said online that we could talk about, like all of his Instagram live sessions where he drinks way too much and tries to give off the impression of being a hardcore partier. But we just don't have time to get into all of that right now, because none of it is significant enough to warrant taking up more time. This video is already going to be long as it is, and I've got to be mindful of the runtime. So we're just going to leave it at this and move on to the important stuff that happened later on. Believe me, there is still plenty to talk about. All right, let's move on. The next step in the story is the Battle of the Finish Line. This incident all started because of the impatience and pride of Ja's mother, Jamie. I want that to be clear from the get-go. Jamie Morant is completely at fault for this whole situation popping off. I firmly believe that after fully researching this subject. None of this really needed to happen at all. And the moment that Jamie Morant involved her son, the fault of this incident landed clearly at her shoulders.
I don't go in malls no more.
The store clerk who was harassed that day came forward and went public with his name, Givon Busby, and he told the Washington Post all about what had happened. I could not find the original Washington Post article to save my life, but I do have an article from Fox that covered the same issue and provided the quotes from Givon. I'm going to try and set the scene for you as best I can. Unfortunately, I don't have any good visuals to help aid the storytelling, but you guys have good imaginations, I'm sure. Here is an AI-generated image to help visualize what this argument probably looked like. One day, I hope to find an animator that I can work with so I can visually represent whatever I'm talking about. But that's a problem for later on when I have some money to work with. But anyway, Jamie Morant is shopping at the mall near Memphis. I don't know which mall it was exactly, but that really doesn't even matter. She has all the money in the world because her son is a superstar NBA player who gives her whatever she wants. So she is very much accustomed to getting special treatment and being showered with praise and compliments. And it had probably been quite a while since she had last been told no. But when she walked into the Finish Line store, she did not get the special treatment that she was expecting. Now, don't go thinking that she was mistreated in any way. She was most certainly not. There was never a threat of harm directed at Jamie Morant at any point, from what I can tell. All that went wrong was that the guy working there decided to help two white women before Jamie Morant. And when the guy finally got done with those two white women, he had the sheer audacity to tell Jamie Morant that they did not have the shoe size that she wanted in stock. And that was simply too much for her. The Finish Line had gone too far this time. How dare they not have the shoe size that she wanted? And how dare they help other customers before her? Don't they know who she is? So Jamie decided to start yelling and screaming at the Finish Line employee, Givon Busby. And she started following him around the store as he tried to get away. I don't know exactly what Givon did to make Jamie want to involve her NBA player son, but he must have done something, because Jamie called up Ja on the phone and told him to get down there right now to back her up. Givon probably got tired of getting screamed at, and he likely told this crazy lady to fuck off or to get out of the store or something. And there ain't no way that she would have taken that kind of disrespect while lying down, because that's just not who she is, based on her behavior in this situation, as well as the others that are going to come up later on. And Ja was all too eager to come down there and start throwing his weight around.
If what alleged in that incident is true, his mom got to stop putting Ja in harm's way. Well, you got to stop calling your son. Your son is not an enforcer. You do realize that your son is Ja Morant? You do realize that he's an NBA player?
I'm honestly a little bit surprised that he did not bring a gun with him, considering that 4 out of the 6 incidents that he has been involved in all had something to do with guns.
It seems like 4 of the 6 incidents involved a gun.
Thank you.
4 of the 6.
This section and the next one right after it are the only two situations where there are no reports of a gun. And I'm sure that Givon Busby is mighty thankful for that. But it's not like Ja even needed a gun in order to intimidate this innocent store employee. Ja might be short for an NBA player, but he is tall by just about any standard for the rest of the world. Ja is an imposing figure to pretty much anyone under 6 foot tall. And I'm sure that Givon Busby is no exception there. So there really was no need for a gun. And I'm glad that Ja left it at home. And to make things even worse for Givon Busby, Ja came down there with 9 different guys in tow. All of them ready and willing to do whatever it took to get Ja's favor. And I can guarantee you that Devontae Pack was part of that posse. There ain't no way that Devontae is missing out on any action related to Ja Morant. These two are absolutely inseparable, even still to this very day. And Devontae is a big guy as well. So Givon Busby had no chance whatsoever against Ja and his crew. The best and smartest thing that Givon Busby could have done for himself is hide himself away in the back room of the store, which is exactly what he did. And anyone calling him a coward for hiding in the back room is just plain stupid and unrealistic. Even the bravest man in the world should feel no shame whatsoever from running from a group of 9 people when you are by yourself and at your place of work. If Givon Busby had stood his ground and stayed there to fight, he would have not only had his ass beat from within an inch of his life, he probably would have also gotten robbed and spit on, and he also would have lost his job. The only realistic option that the kid had was to hightail it into the back room and lock the door behind him. Givon Busby says that the goon squad was outside of his door taunting him for nearly an hour, saying all kinds of shit to him from the other side of the door, until finally, after who knows how long, security arrived to kick the Morant party out of the mall. And that went about as well as you would expect. The Morants put up a fight every step of the way. The security guards had all they could do to get the party out into the parking lot. And when they got there, the tension escalated even further. Thankfully, there was never any fists thrown, but you can believe that the Morant party was talking all kinds of shit. They were arguing, screaming insults, and generally just being difficult. Security had called the cops before even reaching the parking lot, so when they got there, it was not long until the police arrived to tell the Morants to leave. But as soon as the cops told them to leave, the director of security decided to speak up and echo the demands of the cops. Kind of like a, yeah, get out of here type of thing, right after the cops said it. And that angered one of the people in Ja Morant's party, causing them to reach over and push the security guard in the back of the head while the cops were not looking. I don't know how they pulled that off right under the cop's nose, but somehow they did. The report says that it was not Ja himself that had pushed the security guard, but one of the others in his party, possibly even Devontae Pack. I would not be surprised at all if that's who did it. But anyway, after the Morants finally decided to leave, because, they had plenty of other things they could have been doing this entire time, that's when Ja was quoted saying, "Let me find out when he gets off," in reference to the director of security, who was the one who had been shoved and who was the one who had called the cops in the first place. Ja making that comment about when he gets off was enough for the director of security to officially file a police report out of fear for his safety. And I can't say that I blame the guy either, considering the nature of the confrontation that day. Who knows what kind of stuff Ja and his party had said to that security guard. I wish someone had recorded this exchange, even if it was audio only. It would have shed a lot more light on the situation, but we work with what we have, don't we? Anyway, the police report was filed, but nothing ever came of it. I don't know if the security guard had dropped the charges voluntarily, or there was not enough proof of wrongdoing, or maybe Ja paid off the security guard to shut the fuck up and drop the charges. I suppose any of those options are possible, but as long as Ja stays silent on the subject, it's not like we're gonna know for sure. And that means we are all free to speculate in the meantime, until he finally does speak up and tell everybody the truth.
Right? You just can't go out there being reckless, pulling up to Foot Locker, Foot Action, and trying to bang on the damn manager. You can call him, right? You're at this situation where you can call and fix it over the phone.
All I know is that it wasn't even a week before Ja Morant was making headlines once again. Only 4 days after this confrontation happened, Ja was in another fight at his home, which we will talk about in the next section. This period of time in Ja's life was very chaotic. It seems like these events happened one after the other. It makes me wonder when the next time it will be that Ja is in the headlines. Things have been mostly quiet from him lately, but that can only last for so long. But let's not focus on that right now. We still have a lot to go over and a long way to go. So let's keep moving. The next step in the story is the assault of the D1 basketball player, Josh Holloway.
Tonight, Memphis Grizzlies superstar Ja Morant is being sued after a teenager claims he was punched by Morant.
Essentially, Ja and Devontae Pack decided to beat the ever-loving shit out of Josh Holloway after tensions got high during a pickup game. Ja had invited over a bunch of amateur hoopers to come play ball at his house, and Josh Holloway was one of the players who was invited. And by all accounts, the game was very competitive, and tensions had been running high the whole time. If you only listened to Ja's side of the story, he would have you believe that Josh Holloway is basically a wild animal that Ja was basically forced to put down. But I don't buy that story at all, if I'm honest. Both parties agree that Ja was the first one to swing. So Ja is going to need to really sell his side of the story if he wants people to actually believe that Josh Holloway started this fight. The Tennessee courts might be willing to buy Ja's brand of bullshit and toss out his case, but the court of public opinion has a much higher burden of proof. And I just don't think that Ja's self-defense argument would hold up in a state that takes self-defense seriously. If this situation had happened in a state like New York or California, Ja would not have only had a civil case to worry about. You can believe that there would have been a criminal case if this was in one of those states. And you can believe that the self-defense argument would be a lot harder for Ja's lawyers to make. But that doesn't really matter because this did indeed happen in Tennessee, where homeowners can basically beat up whoever they want as long as it happens on their property. But anyway, Josh Holloway's side of the story is that Ja was the one to make the first sign of disrespect by kicking the ball away when it came time to check up.
He kicked the ball on my leg. The ball was all over here. I thought I touched his leg like that. Then he picked up the ball. He picked up the ball and threw it hard as he can. Straight at him. Straight at him. Caught him. Threw it right back at him. Yeah.
It's possible that the ball even hit Ja in the face because he did not catch it in time. Either that, or Ja was not actually hit in the face, but simply claimed that the ball was thrown in his face. But either way, Ja interpreted that last ball throw as a direct threat, because after that exchange, Ja came up on the teenager and got real close to invade Josh's space. And he began asking Devontae Pack if he should hit the teenager.
Then put the ball down, came up like this. Came up like this on him. He was like, should I hit him?
And Ja is asking this question to Devontae Pack, who is probably standing off to the side somewhere, but Ja is getting right up in Josh's face the whole time he is saying this. So when the teenager hears Ja say,
he was like, should I hit him?
He responds by saying,
hit me then.
And that's when Ja started swinging. I'll let Josh Holloway tell you his side of the story himself in just a minute. As soon as Ja started swinging, Devontae Pack was right behind him to help put the beat down on a 17-year-old kid.
Then his friend come over there, hit me, fell on the ground, and they just started coming.
Like while you were laying on the ground, they were still hitting you?
Yeah, they were still hitting me. Okay. Like the next 20 seconds.
Josh tried his best to get in at least one punch before he was taken down, but Ja and Devontae are a hell of a lot bigger than this kid. So the fight was very much one-sided. I doubt that Ja or Devontae took even a single hit, honestly. Josh later told the police that the beating lasted a full 20 seconds.
Like the next 20 seconds.
He says that he was hit at least 12 to 13 times, which would have been brutal for anyone to go through. Getting hit like that absolutely hurts. If you guys in the audience have never experienced that, you should try to have some empathy for those that have. It's a traumatic experience for anyone, but Josh Holloway handled his beating very well. This kid is definitely tough.
He's got a big old goose egg on the back of his head.
The fight was broken up by some of the spectators who had been watching the game. Ja's father, Ja Morant, was present and likely watched the entire thing go down from start to finish. I know this because T is brought up in the video by the teenager where he was talking to the police.
Hey, John.
Why?
This, I think it's because we was talking, his dad, he didn't want to take a light on him. He was like, just because that's him, don't take a light on him. So, you know, we playing competitive, talking trash to each other.
Yeah.
That's what players do.
I'm not sure what the kid was saying exactly when he brought up Ja Morant, but there is no doubt that he was there. You would think that T would be the adult and try to de-escalate the situation before it could come to blows, but I guess he really wasn't willing to tell his son no when it matters. T should have been the one to stop Ja as soon as he got into the teenager's face. This is one big reason why people like to criticize T for not telling his kid no.
I will remind you, sir, you are his daddy. You are not his boy. And the reality of the situation is that on far too many occasions, remember when there was the altercation in the Staples Center involving Shannon Sharp and stuff like that? Dad ended up in the middle of that.
T should have definitely been the adult and stopped the fight before it even broke out. It's not like T is a shy dude. He could have easily walked out onto the court and calmed everything down. He simply chose not to. I firmly believe that. I do not have any proof, but I don't think that I need any. If T was present for the fight, he should have stepped in before the violence even happened. And depending on what Josh meant with what he said right here,
his dad, he didn't want to take a light on him. Just because that's him, don't take a light on him. So
T might have even helped instigate the fight. I can't really tell what Josh is saying right here, so I can't be sure, but it sounds like Josh is saying that T said, don't take it lying down.
He didn't want to take a light on him.
But the audio is not clear enough for me to be able to tell. At the very least, T was there, and he did not do anything to stop the fight. That is a problem in and of itself. If T really did help instigate the fight, then Ja is in some trouble because that would mean that he is surrounded by reckless fools who do not know when to smother the fire and when to pour gas on it. But hopefully Josh simply meant something else when he was talking about T in that video to the police.
His dad, he didn't want to take a light on him. He was like, just because that sim don't take it lightly on. So
I would not be surprised if the fight happened on the court that you are seeing on screen right now, since this footage was taken on his home court. The game probably looked very similar to the one that you are seeing, just with a lot more fighting and trash talking. After the fight was broken up, the teenager was being held back by the other people that were there as he tried his best to get back at Ja and Devontae for whooping his ass, but all he could do was run his mouth, and in that regard, he did not hold back. He made all kinds of threats and insults, and some of them were very serious in nature, especially the threat where he said that he would come back and light Ja's house on fire. Saying shit like that is very serious, and these threats are very likely what has made the Holloway's legal case against Ja so damn ineffective. But we will talk about that in a few minutes. As the teenager was being held back and was making all of his threats, Ja went back into his house to grab one of his handguns, and he came back outside with his gun stuffed into his pants, or perhaps he was holding it in his hand. But either way, he had the gun on him, and he was very likely brandishing it at Josh Holloway as he was being escorted off the property. But I don't have any proof that Ja brandished the weapon, because there is no video, unfortunately. I am only speculating, really. It was brought up in the news that he pulled out a gun, but I don't know for sure that he actually, pointed it at the teenager. You guys need to keep this incident in mind, because it will not be the last time that Ja is associated with a handgun. But because this did not happen on camera, it gets brushed under the radar. Thankfully, the gun was never fired that day, but it was still brought to a situation that it probably did not need to be. And that alone is a cause for concern, if you ask me, especially when you consider all of the other occasions where Ja pulled out a gun. Josh Holloway was being held back without any issue by the other people that were there.
I was everybody was holding me back.
And he did not have any weapons of his own. So I don't think that I am making a bold claim when I say that the gun was unnecessary. And it's not like the threat of arson is worth killing someone. I mean, if you catch somebody with gasoline and match in hand trying to light your house up, that's totally different. But just making the threat is not quite worth pulling a gun over. Arson is most certainly a serious threat, but given that the teenager was unarmed and had just gotten his ass beat, there really was no need for the gun. The optics of Ja going to get the gun makes him look scared and paranoid, which lends support to the theory that Ja thinks of himself as a gangster, because that's how a gangster would respond to even the smallest threats, by pulling out a gun. That's all they know how to do. If the teenager was coming at Ja with a knife, that's a different story. But these were obviously empty threats that were being made by a kid that had just had his ass and his ego beaten up real bad. So I really think the handgun was overkill. And the fact that Ja was so eager to get his gun is very telling, and is an important piece to the puzzle of why Ja did what he did later on. But anyway, back to the story. An hour and a half after the fight took place, Josh Holloway and his mother called the Memphis Police Department and told them the entire story from inside the Holloway's living room. Luckily, we have the police body cam footage of the conversation between Josh and the officer. I'm going to play everything I have for you so you can get the full context. The clip is a little bit long, but it's not that long either. Don't mind the subtitles, because a lot of them are not accurate, and I was not the one who put them there. But it would ruin the clip if I covered them up, so I'll just let them stay there. It is very much up for debate on what exactly was said during this clip, but here it is in full, so you can be the judge.
You're talking about like basketball player Ja Morant. Basketball. Like Memphis Grizzlies Ja Morant.
Grizzlies, yeah.
So a grown man just hit you in the face.
Yeah. And a friend. They jumped.
Why?
I think because we was talking, his dad, he didn't want to take it lightly. Just because that sim don't take it lightly. So, we playing competitive, talking trash to each other. Yeah. That's what I'm supposed to do. So, he took the ball, so say like this. I sit the ball down right here.
Yeah.
Check it, you got to get it. He kicked the ball in my leg. The ball was all right here. Somebody got the ball, okay? I'm like, check up. I throw it to his leg. Just stand right there. I throw it to his leg like that. Then he picked up the ball. And threw it hard as he can.
Straight at you.
Caught him. Threw it right back at him. Yeah. Then put the ball down. Came up like this on him. He was like, should I hit him? So I was like, hit me then. Bam, he hit me. Went back. So I'm like this. I tried to swing. No. Then his friend come over there, hit me, fell on the ground, and they just started coming.
Like while you were laying on the ground, they were still hitting you?
Yeah, they were still hitting me. Okay. Like the next 20 seconds.
And you just get up and leave?
Yeah, I was everybody was already back.
He got a big old goose egg on the back of his head. Like, we're about to go have to arrest Ja Morant.
Like a month and a half, and now I think he's like,
what's up, buddy?
Dropped by Ja Morant.
Yeah,
dropped by Ja Morant.
Yeah, he got beat out of by Ja Morant at his house. Like the Memphis Grizzlies player.
Yeah, I know who Ja Morant is.
Yeah, so
that guy. When?
Like an hour and a half ago, something like
that. Where the is Ja Morant?
He lives.
I know that. I mean, where is he right now?
Probably at his house.
So the fight happened here?
No, it happened at Ja Morant's house. He was over there playing basketball
with him. With Ja Morant.
Oh, really?
Like basketball.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's something. 17-year-old?
Yeah. He was over there playing basketball, apparently. And
22. But, man, what happened?
They were over there playing ball and talking trash, like that. And Ja Morant decided he wanted to square up with him.
I don't know about you guys, but when I watch Josh Holloway tell his side of the story, I just do not get the sense that he is lying. He's not trying to include a bunch of information that doesn't need to be there, and he is not getting hung up on trying to justify everything that he did, and he is also not trying to tell the cop how good of a person he is, and how he would never hurt anyone, and crap like that. He simply tells the story as he knows it, and he lets the world figure out the details. He most certainly is omitting details that would make him look bad, but I don't think that makes the rest of his story invalid. If the kid had more time to tell his side of the story, we might have been able to paint a clearer picture of what happened. And maybe then, the kid would have admitted to some of the things that helped start the fight. It's hard to paint the whole picture with a 2-minute clip. And it would sure be nice if Ja came out and told his side of the story without any of the moralizing and tricks that liars like to play, but that will probably never happen.
Now these are circumstances that allegedly took place with the 17-year-old when you guys were playing basketball or whatever. And I know that case is sealed, so we're not going to say any names or whatever, but I just want to give you a chance to address everything that's been out there.
There's not much I can say, because it's sealed, but pretty much everything, you see on the social media, that's going on with that is a lie. And another thing, I can't wait to, finally, say my side and, actually tell the truth of, what's going on. So it'll finally stop.
You're full of shit.
The first thing that Ja's lawyers heard from the people representing Josh Holloway and his mother was a $20 million settlement demand, which was very obviously dismissed right out of hand. There isn't a single dimension of the multiverse where this case is worth $20 million. Never in a million years would this case be worth that much. And whoever sent this demand to Ja's lawyers is a goddamn fool. And they've ruined the Holloway's chances of ever getting a dollar out of anyone. The only way this case would ever be worth $20 million is if Josh was a 6-year-old girl with cancer, and Ja beat her within an inch of her life or something. $20 million is just a huge number that was downright insane for the Holloways to demand. I'm almost certain that this demand is what killed the civil case that the Holloways opened against Ja. This demand made it pretty clear to everyone involved that the Holloways wanted money, and the Tennessee courts did not take too kindly to that. Because as of the writing of this script, the civil court case between Josh Holloway and Ja is very close to being thrown out, and it likely will be by the time this video releases. And at that point, Ja will be completely in the clear.
Ja Morant's legal team claims the point guard was acting under Tennessee's Stand Your Ground law, which allows people who feel threatened at their home to act with force in certain situations. Judge Carol Chumley ruled that Stand Your Ground laws could apply, but Morant is not in the clear just yet. The court set a hearing December 11th to officially determine if Morant should be granted immunity from the lawsuit.
And the case that was in progress against Devontae Pack has also been thrown out by the prosecution for lack of evidence. I mean, the bottom line for both of these cases was that there simply was not enough proof of Josh's accusations, and there was probably very few witnesses that were willing to go against Ja's word. And Tennessee has very lax self-defense laws that heavily favor the homeowner in any given situation. So this was the perfect scenario for Ja to get the case completely dismissed. Like I said before, other states would have handled it differently, but this is Tennessee, and because all of this happened on Ja's property, the self-defense argument is being allowed by the courts. It's unclear exactly why the prosecution threw out the case against Devontae Pack, other than for a lack of evidence. If there was even a grainy video to support Josh's claims, this would have gone a lot better for him. But as things are, there will be no justice for Josh Holloway, and he most likely brought that upon himself with all of the threats that he made on his way off of Ja's property, as well as the $20 million demand that the kid's mother sent to Ja's lawyers. But the moral of the story is that Ja got off scot-free in the end, barring any sudden surprises, and not even Devontae Pack is going to take any of the heat for what happened, even though for a little while there, it seemed like Devontae Pack really might have been in some trouble.
The well-known friend of Memphis Grizzlies star player Ja Morant, Devontae Pack, arrested on assault charges about a week after a warrant was issued for him.
Ja Morant claimed that he hit Josh Holloway in self-defense, but Devontae Pack made no such claim. In fact, Pack not only told investigators that he punched the teen, he also said that he did not feel threatened at the time he struck Holloway, knocking him to the ground.
But that's the justice system for you. The rich get off scot-free every time. After Devontae Pack's case was thrown out, Ja and Devontae were seen together at a concert, celebrating, having a good time, even though the two of them could have had some serious consequences if this had all happened in a different state. And I was hoping that Devontae Pack would have been kicked out of Ja's life for good after all the stuff that had happened on camera, but I suppose that was too much to hope for. But let's get moving because we've still got a long way to go. For the next part of the drama, the story is someone allegedly called Ja Morant's sister, Tania, a bitch at a high school volleyball game, and the Morant family simply could not let that go. Their ever so sensitive collective family ego could not handle having a random high school student refer to one of their own as a bitch, even though the Morants are multi-millionaire public figures who deal with being talked about on a daily basis. For some reason, during this particular volleyball game, the Morants forgot that they were public figures, and they decided to act like a regular Memphis family, even though the Morants are from a very nice part of South Carolina and have always come from money and have never had to live in the hood for a day in their life. But on this particular day, they went full hood mode. The story goes, when Ja's mother, Jamie Morant, the matriarch of the family, heard that someone called her daughter, Tania, a bitch, she and her son, Ja, followed by an entire crew of family and associates, approached a group of students demanding to know who called Tania a bitch. Which one of y'all call her a bitch? That's what was said by Jamie Morant, as reported by TMZ. Apparently, someone tried to take a picture of Ja while all of this was happening, and one of the associates of the Morant side slapped the phone out of the student's hand when they tried to take a picture. And then the associate said, I don't care about none of that. I'll beat y'all's ass. TMZ claims that one of the witnesses there that day, that the shit-talking associate also had a gun on them when they made the threat. But the police say that they never saw the man with a gun. But you can believe that there was a whole bunch of yelling, posturing, and threats being made. There was some talk from both sides after it was all said and done about pressing charges and pursuing a lawsuit, but ultimately, both sides decided not to go in that direction. Neither side had definitive proof of wrongdoing, and only one side had the money for lawyers. So it makes sense why no one ended up pressing charges in the end. And I don't know why the Morant side thought that they had any grounds for pressing charges at all, honestly. They're crazy if they think they had a case if all this reporting is true. Multiple media outlets reported on it, and the scene is basically described as Ja Morant's big-ass party being the aggressor in this situation. The Morants were all seen by witnesses attempting to confront whoever called Tania a bitch, and not the other way around. The Morants were on the offensive. So I don't know why anyone on the Morant side thought that they would be able to press charges on anyone. Similar to the battle at the finish line, no punches were thrown, but tensions were very high for a little bit. Lots of screaming and posturing and threatening in front of a bunch of high school kids who probably didn't appreciate having their school event taken over by a huge Morant goon squad who I'm sure was disruptive and loud throughout the whole volleyball game. I'll bet that those students were probably annoyed with the Morants right from the moment they walked into the gymnasium. And to be clear, I don't know why the original person called Ja Morant's sister a bitch. I just assumed that the person was frustrated with the loud and disruptive Morant party that most likely made the whole game about themselves in any way they could. But it's entirely possible, and most likely probable, that Tania was called a bitch for a completely different reason. But that's all I've got when it comes to this part of the Morant drama saga. This story kind of just blew over relatively quickly, because the next part of the drama was such a big headline that everyone kind of forgot about the whole volleyball game showdown. But whenever someone wants to really drive home the point about how crazy the Morant family can be sometimes, this story is the example media personalities would go to. Well, this and the battle at the finish line. Let's move on though. We have a lot more to talk about before this video is over with. A lot more. January 29th, 2023. It's a Grizzlies home game against the Indiana Pacers. It's only been 9 days since the Shannon Sharpe confrontation with the Grizzlies at a Lakers home game. I was going to include a section about that, but I cut it for time because Ja really wasn't the star of the show in that fight. But Ja and the Grizzlies must have kept that same energy from the Lakers game, because this game between the Pacers and the Grizzlies would be one hell of an eventful night. Because not only would the game between the Pacers and the Grizzlies get a little bit heated, with Ja Morant and Chris Duarte getting into a fight, but there would also be a whole bunch of drama and fighting that took place after the game was all over with. But I'm getting ahead of myself though. Let me give you some context and some details before I start talking about the epic battle that happened at the loading dock of the Grizzlies arena. It all began during a regular season home game between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Indiana Pacers. The Grizzlies ended up beating the Pacers 112-100. The game itself was a good one for the most part, but it was clear that the Grizzlies were the better team. The Pacers were no pushovers though, and Chris Duarte himself is certainly no pushover, because during the game, he and Ja Morant got into a heated argument that ended up getting both teams involved. It all started when Chris Duarte pushed Ja in a way that was not appreciated. Ja, being the confrontational hothead that he is, he slapped the hand away and told Chris not to touch him, even though touching is kind of part of the game when it comes to defense. But that's neither here nor there. When Ja says don't touch him, the whole Grizzlies team comes to Ja's rescue. Chris can be clearly seen trying to get closer to Ja in any way that he can, but he is always blocked by someone before he can get too close. And the whole time he is talking shit, I'm sure. But if you look at Ja, you can see that he is just passively standing there in place, telling Chris not to touch him and probably saying some other generic-ass insults that everyone has heard a million times. It looks a little bit like Ja was trying to hide behind his team, if I'm honest. Clearly, Ja did not want any smoke with Chris Duarte. That much is clear. On the sidelines, Ja's best buddy in the whole world, Devontae Pack, can be seen making a fool of himself as he gets out of his courtside seats and starts walking into the court while yelling insults at the Indiana Pacers. Before Devontae even gets a few steps onto the court, a referee gets into his path and puts his hand out to tell Devontae to go back to his seat. You would think that Devontae would just have kept going and kept hurling insults since he was already out there walking into the court. He might as well just go all the way, because either way he was going to get kicked out. But as soon as the referee tells Devontae to get off the court, he immediately turns around and goes back to his seat like a good little boy. No one had to hold him back or ask him twice to get off the court. He was like, oh, okay, back to my seat. But as soon as he sat back down, that's when security came over to throw his ass out of the game. Devontae Pack was also banned from coming back to the Grizzlies arena for at least an entire year. And hopefully that ban gets extended to a lifetime ban.
The Memphis Grizzlies banned Devontae Pack from home games this year after a dust-up between Pack, Morant's father, and a couple of Indiana Pacers players during a January game. Pack was escorted from the Forum.
But the fight between Ja Morant and Chris Duarte was broken up, and the game continued without any further drama on the court. Everyone went back to their locker rooms and got out of their uniforms and into street clothes. The Pacers were loading up their stuff and getting their bus ready to take them to the airport when Ja Morant and 10 or so of his friends, they all pulled up in black SUVs and began harassing and insulting the Indiana Pacers and their staff. Ja Morant and Devontae Pack were definitely part of the group. That much is certain. In fact, it's most likely that they were the ringleaders of the whole group. And Devontae Pack is always close by when Ja does something stupid, which is all the more reason why Devontae Pack needs to be kicked out of Ja's life for good. But anyway, the Grizzlies group and the Pacers got into a 20-minute long screaming match on the loading dock of the Grizzlies arena. I can only imagine the kind of stuff that was said between the two groups. I wish so badly that someone there that night had recorded this fight. I would have loved to at least hear a piece of the audio of that fight. I bet Ja said all kinds of boring, stupid-ass insults that everyone has heard a million times on the streets. But sadly, we will never know for sure because no one thought to take out their phones and start recording. Luckily, there was a heroic squad of security guards that were there that night who kept the Pacers and the Grizzlies from getting physical with each other. The security guards held both groups back for 20 whole minutes while they screamed and yelled at each other. Those security guards really earned their pay that night. They should have gotten a bonus too, because if they weren't there that night, the confrontation would have been a whole hell of a lot worse. You can guarantee that. But after the Grizzlies got tired of talking shit, they packed up into their SUVs and slowly began driving off. And that's when, suddenly, a laser started shining from the SUV that Ja Morant was riding in, and it pointed at the Pacers staff as the SUV drove off. One of the security guards who was there that night witnessed the laser and was quoted saying that is 100% attached to a gun, but there was no evidence to substantiate that claim. The laser could have been from a toy at Walmart, or it could have been attached to a silenced MP5 with Ja Wick barely stopping himself from pulling the trigger. It is impossible to know without some kind of proof or explanation from Ja himself. But it's not like Ja would tell us if he was pointing a gun at the Pacers that night. I certainly hope he wasn't, because if Ja was stupid enough to point a gun at another team's staff, even if it was supposed to be some kind of fucked up joke, then there really is no hope for Ja Morant in the long run. If he is that stupid, he is guaranteed to prematurely ruin his career before age does what it does. Everyone keeps saying how smart Ja Morant is, but then he does stuff like this and all the other stuff that we talk about in this video.
He said Ja Morant is one of the most intelligent players in the game and one of the most intelligent athletes you will ever find.
Because I've been around Ja, and he's not a dumb guy.
This young man is highly intelligent.
Ja appears to be a really bright guy.
Works hard, he's smart as hell.
And Ja Morant said so himself. Actions speak very louder than words, right? Remember Ja?
No, actions speak very louder than words, so.
Very louder. So what does all these stupid-ass decisions say about Ja? And we are only about 60% of the way through the video. We haven't even talked about the dumbest stuff that he has done yet. So if actions really do speak louder than words, at what point do we all just admit that Ja Morant is a goddamn idiot? This laser incident really is one of the dumbest stories that I've heard in a long time. What was he thinking when he gathered up his homies in those SUVs just to go down and harass the Pacers? What did he gain by that? The Grizzlies won the game that night, right? Why did Ja feel the need to do this in the first place? It's decisions like this that makes me think he really is a blithering idiot. The only reason I can see that would possibly make Ja want to go down and harass the Pacers at the loading dock of the FedEx Forum is that Chris Duarte really must have intimidated Ja during their fight on the court. Ja must have felt super threatened if he felt the need to go gather 10 of his friends just to confront Chris Duarte and the Pacers with. Or Chris Duarte said something super bad that Ja felt the need to go gather up his buddies and go harass the Pacers for. I mean, I would love to hear what Ja's side of the story is with this whole confrontation, because there aren't a lot of flattering reasons that Ja would do this crap that I can think of. I mean, maybe Ja has a good reason and we just don't know it yet. But the way I see it, with the information that I have from the Athletic and the NBA probe that happened just after the story was reported, it kind of looks like Ja got intimidated and butthurt on the court during his fight with Chris Duarte. And he gathered up his buddies to go harass the Pacers so Ja could somehow feel better about himself. That's kind of how it seems to me. Or maybe Chris Duarte told Ja to meet him at the loading dock after the game. Who knows what really happened? None of the people involved want to talk about it, so all we can do is speculate. This whole story was reported to the Athletic by the Pacers staff after everything was all said and done. So I'm sure that Ja has a completely different version of what happened that night, but it's not like he's going to tell the world his side of things anytime soon. So for now, the only version we have is what was reported by the Athletic and what was discovered by the NBA probe investigation.
There was the incident allegedly after the Pacers game, and somebody was allegedly pointing a red dot at some of their personnel. Can you shed light on what happened after that game?
Majority of the things, that's happened in the past, obviously, I kind of put myself into by even being there. But all the incidents you've seen recently, most of them is a lie. And, I can't speak too much, on those situations because all of them are sealed. And I really can't wait to be able to, finally tell the truth. But, what I can say is, like I said before, none of those are my character. And I'm a big family guy. I always care for my family. So it was just me, checking on my family's safety. Once my family, was safe, I left the scene.
The Pacers did not call the cops that night, right there on the spot. because most likely they knew that it would not do any good, and it would only delay the Pacers from getting out of Memphis. I would imagine their top priority after seeing that laser was to get the fuck up out of Memphis as soon as they could. The Pacers were probably worried that someone might come do a goddamn drive-by or something, since Memphis is so dangerous and Ja is always trying to portray himself as some kind of gangster. Remember this Twitter post? How he has been on that, he's still on that, and he won't ever speak out on it? The Pacers were probably worried that maybe Ja was serious when he wrote all this crap, since they felt like he had just pointed a gun at them. I mean, better safe than sorry, right? I really don't blame the Pacers for getting out of there as soon as they could. The cops would not have done much of anything anyway, not without direct proof of the laser and the threats that happened during the fight, and since no one recorded the fight, there was no proof. So the best thing the Pacers could do is report the story to The Athletic and hope that the court of public opinion would be on their side. At the time this story was reported, Ja Morant was still the wonder boy of the NBA, and his reputation was pretty much unharmed, despite the seriousness of the story. But once Ja did that stupid shit on camera a few months later, the laser incident seemed a bit more serious in retrospect. The only other thing that I should mention that happened on this night between the Pacers and the Grizzlies is the tweet that Ja posted about Davante Pack being banned for a whole year. Ja was not happy about that decision at all.
Banned my brother for a year, tweeted Morant. Unbelievable.
In his tweet, he said that they banned his brother for no good reason, and that it was unbelievable.
You know, I'm big on loyalty.
And he also said that he was not pleased with the Athletic article that came out. He said that they were capping in the article, even though all of that information was corroborated by multiple witnesses and camera feeds in the arena. None of the footage was made public, but I trust that the NBA's investigation was accurate. So I don't know where he got the idea that anyone was capping. They said it happened the way that I described it in this section. And then Ja comes on Twitter saying that they were capping, without offering any information to back that claim up. Ja is acting like he was the only one who was wrong in this tweet, like they made up the whole article out of thin air or something. I really don't get where he was going with this tweet. I would have really liked to know where his mind space was at when he wrote this tweet, because it makes no sense. He is acting like he was the one who was wronged that night. I mean, Ja and the Grizzlies, in general, took the stance of deny, deny, deny when it comes to this situation. They knew that there was no solid proof of the laser and the fight, so they just pretended like nothing happened. When Ja was asked about this by a reporter, he responded with,
all that stuff, you know, pretty much false. It's been proven. That's all I got to say on it.
So that was a fucking lie.
The only thing that is false is what Ja just said in that clip. Not a goddamn thing was proven about any aspect of this story. I really don't know how Ja could come to the conclusion that everything in the Athletic article was proven false. That makes no sense at all. The NBA probe investigation proves that there was, in fact, a confrontation and that the SUVs did pull up to start a fight. I don't know if the laser story was proven by the NBA probe, but there were certainly multiple witnesses to that story, so I would love to know where Ja's proof is. He says that it's been proven that all of this stuff is false, but I don't know where or when that proof happened. Where was it proven? When? The easy answer is that Ja doesn't know which words mean what when he says that it's been proven. Maybe he actually doesn't know what that means. Maybe he doesn't know what the word proven means. Or he is intentionally lying to everyone's faces. You guys can be the judge of which one it is. I think he is an idiot and a liar both, to be honest.
You said it was all false, but they said there was like a confrontation back there.
I answered that question earlier. I'm done with that topic.
My opinion of Ja goes down the more I work on this video and the more I explain everything that happened. He lies a whole lot during this long saga of drama and confrontations and stupidity, so I'm not surprised when he says categorically false bullshit like this.
All that stuff, you know, pretty much false. It's been proven.
But I think that's enough for this part of the story, though. We still have quite a bit to talk about, and we better get moving. The next step in the timeline of the Ja Morant saga was possibly the biggest climax moment of the entire story. Ja Morant was at the center of much of the world's attention for an amount of time that was probably very uncomfortable for Ja, considering the nature of the attention that he was receiving. Let me be perfectly clear. The whole world was laughing right in Ja Morant's face, mocking him mercilessly. He was being dogged and roasted by the internet for a solid 2 weeks after he did what I'm about to tell you. Ja Morant was a verifiable rotisserie chicken within a month. Bro got burned so bad by everyone in the sports commentary business, and a whole bunch of internet personalities were talking about this as well. I am, of course, referring to the incident at Shotgun Willie's strip club, where Ja Morant pulled out a gun on camera and proceeded to flash and flaunt the gun like he was a 12-year-old kid trying to look tough on the internet for the very first time. Ja even made the same face an 11-year-old would make if he was to show off his dad's gun on camera. When Ja Morant pulled out that gun, the whole world basically went nuts within a matter of hours. News stories everywhere, countless videos of talking heads going on and on about how dumb, wasteful, and reckless Ja Morant has been ever since he signed his gigantic max extension that could have turned into a supermax if he had just made one of the All-NBA teams. When Ja flashed that gun at Shotgun Willie's strip club, and once the world saw the video, it was like we were all taking one big collective gasp of surprise when it happened. A gasp that took the form of relentless videos and clips of people criticizing and making fun of Ja with no mercy. Every goddamn source of news that exists on planet Earth today was talking about Ja Morant pulling a gun in a strip club. Or at least it seemed like it was every news outlet on the internet. It's all any of the sports personalities could talk about for at least 2 weeks. Everyone who is anyone in the basketball media world was talking about this. I wish I had been an established creator at the time, so I could join in on it, because the numbers that these videos were getting were downright crazy at times. But alas, I am too goddamn slow at making videos because no one has subscribed to my channel channel yet to get a fire lit under my ass. I'm hoping you guys might help me out with that. Plus, I'm super long-winded, and I like to fully research videos before I release them, so it's going to be hard for me to be on time when it comes to drama situations like this. But you can bet that I will be there a few months later with a long-ass video describing everything in detail. When Ja pulled out that gun at the strip club, his reputation was immediately and permanently scarred from those few fateful seconds. He is going to be called NBA dumb boy for the rest of his life.
I've heard of NBA young boy, but you NBA dumb boy.
And rightfully so. And if you already know this story, you know that this isn't the last time that Ja pulls some shit like this. You would think that the massive media whirlwind that occurred after the Shotgun Willies incident would have taught Ja a lesson, but you'd be dead ass wrong for thinking so. As a form of damage control, Ja had to do an interview with Jalen Rose so he could apologize and do his best to mitigate the damage to his reputation. And he also had to grovel and beg for forgiveness from the top guys at the league front office, and he had to hear it from everyone over there, Adam Silver and Joe Dumars in particular. And I'm sure that that was not an enjoyable experience for Ja at all. He probably hated having to do all that apologizing. So why didn't he learn his lesson? That's the real question, isn't it? Probably because no one has told Ja no in more than 3 years now, and probably because the punishment that Ja received for this incident really wasn't even a punishment at all. Ja was suspended for a grand total of 2 games, but they called it 8 games because they counted the 6 previous games that Ja had already missed for entirely different reasons. So he lost out on the pay from 8 games in total, which is about $600,000, which is a lot of money to be sure, but it's not really that much money to Ja Morant. He was told by his team or by the league itself to go into a mental health treatment facility to get himself right, and to also silence some of the criticism coming in from the media. And the world was very happy to learn that he was going into a treatment facility at first, but when it was reported that Ja left the treatment facility after only like 2 to 6 days, then public opinion began to sway towards anger all over again.
I mean, I'm like, he's already out. That was my first reaction to it.
Shannon Sharp said it was drive-through therapy, and I really like the sound of that.
Everybody was questioning whether did he go to a drive-through facility?
That's bingo. That's good.
Because he was there in no length of time.
He must have had drive-through because there ain't no way he got any real meaningful help at that facility, no matter how long he was there.
When it's announced he's back, I felt completely bamboozled. Like, we just got taken for the biggest ride ever.
Yeah.
Go to a proper rehab center. You go for 30 days. You don't go for 96 hours. You go for 30 days, which he didn't do the first time. He made the whole thing a joke the first time.
But to truly address issues of anxiety and stress, you're going to need more than a week to do that, Stephen A., with some of the past behavioral patterns I've seen from Ja Morant.
And the reason I know that is because not even 2 months after the first gun incident, Ja Morant's stupid ass got caught on camera again for the same damn thing. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're not there just yet. As for the Shotgun Willies incident, the NBA put together an investigation to find out if Ja broke any laws. And it came back that he didn't. The NBA wanted to find out if Ja had brought the gun on the team plane or if he had carried it with him during any official NBA business. And fortunately for Ja, the NBA's investigation did not find any proof of those allegations. Ja swore the gun wasn't his and that he did not have it with him during any official NBA business.
The gun wasn't mine. Made a bad mistake.
So he was off the hook for any serious crimes. The Denver police released a statement saying that there was no reports of anyone being threatened with a gun and that there were no reports of any gunshots at any point that Ja was at the club. The cops said that none of the staff came forward to complain about being harassed or menaced with a gun. Even though, more recently, some of the strippers at Shotgun Willies decided that they were going to talk to some reporters way later after all this had happened. And they said that they wanted to have an apology from Ja Morant for him brandishing the gun in front of them. I don't know why these women did not come forward to say all this after it had just happened, but the strippers in question say that they want Ja Morant banned from all strip clubs and they want an apology, even though we know that would never happen in a million years. Not with how much money Ja Morant spends when he goes to the strip club. These girls went on record saying they were absolutely terrified by Ja Morant's gun waving. But again, why didn't they say that in the immediate aftermath of the incident? I suppose only they can answer that question, but I tell you what, the fact that these girls waited so long makes it really hard to take their story seriously, especially when the headline of this article is he should get his NBA career taken away. Like, that's just plain excessive and vindictive. Even if these girls were scared by Ja Morant's gun flashing, that doesn't mean that he should have his whole career stripped away from him. But I guess strippers gon' strip. Let's just hope they stick to stripping clothes rather than stripping people of their careers. The official story, however, when it comes to the Ja Morant gun flashing incident, is that no one complained to the police about Ja's behavior, at least not in the immediate aftermath. So the Glendale Police Department did not have anything they could use to charge Ja Morant with a crime. So the investigation was dropped. That doesn't mean that the court of public opinion was willing to drop it, however. The NBA would have been happy to sweep this all under the rug, but the world was not going to be satisfied with just a failed police investigation. And as for the Grizzlies owners and the front office, they were probably flipping out from the moment they saw that cringe-ass video of Ja at Shotgun Willies, because they knew the media circus that was going to cause. And not to mention the fact that Ja's trade capital is now at an all-time low because of all this drama. So the Grizzlies are decidedly worried at this point, and probably still are, because they know that Ja Morant is fully capable of doing even more dumb shit. At the time that all this happened, they were worried about what Ja Morant might do next, but they didn't want to put too much pressure on Ja because he's a superstar that any team would be happy to have, which is why the Grizzlies were handling Ja with kids' gloves throughout this whole situation. They didn't want to alienate their star player, even if he was a complete idiot for getting on IG Live with a gun. And as for the sponsors that had signed with Ja Morant,
what about the Nike? What about the Powerade?
You can believe that they were very unhappy in the wake of this gun incident. The biggest sponsor Ja had was Powerade, who only just recently signed a landmark deal with Ja before this had happened. And their deal would not last long at all because of Ja's stupidity. Technically, they put the deal on hold temporarily for the first few weeks following the gun incident, but they did end up terminating the deal after the next parts of the story that we're going to be talking about very soon. So the deal was effectively canceled the moment Powerade put the deal on hold, which was within a matter of days of Ja flashing the gun at the strip club. But even at the time, everyone knew Ja's Powerade deal was probably screwed because of all this. And you best believe that the deal would have been absolutely massive financially for Ja if he was able to keep it all the way through. That's just another example of how Ja Morant is born to piss away money. Anyway, the Powerade deal was gone, the Nike deal was in jeopardy, even though Nike would eventually decide to stick with Ja because they had dollar signs in their eyes and they had already spent a ton of money on producing the shoes that they had made with Ja, so they figured they might as well go through with the deal. But you can believe that Nike would have dropped Ja Morant if they had not been so far into the production of Ja's signature shoe. If he had did what he did only a couple of weeks after signing this deal with Nike, they probably would have dropped his ass like a bag of concrete, but they were too far into the deal to pull out now, so they just went through with it. There was a ton of pressure on Ja after this incident. He was getting hit from every direction. Everyone was talking about NBA dumb boy and how he fumbled the bag.
You NBA dumb boy.
One significant consequence of this first gun incident was how Ja didn't make any of the All-NBA teams as a result of his off-the-court antics, because all of this was happening during the same time that postseason awards were being decided. If this had happened months later, then Ja might have made one of the All-NBA teams. First, second, or third, it doesn't matter. Any of them would have done the trick. If Ja had made one of those teams, he would have made another $40 million on his contract with the Grizzlies. His contract would have gone from a max to a supermax, but because of his off-the-court antics, it didn't happen. And Kendrick Perkins went on TV saying how he didn't vote for Ja because of his off-the-court bullshit, and that means that there were other voters doing the same thing.
He lost more than $600,000 because he didn't get voted all NBA. It wasn't because of his talent. It was because of what he did off the court. Because he damn sure ain't get one of my votes. And that was one of the reasons why, that was the main reason why I didn't vote for him. So he actually lost way more money than that outside the endorsement deals that he didn't lost because of the situation.
Ja's stats were plenty good enough to make at least one of the All-NBA teams. But this incident at Shotgun Willies really put a dagger in Ja's case for accolades this year. No one wanted to reward Ja's bad behavior by heaping accolades onto him. Many voters were probably worried that if they did vote for Ja, that he would have taken that as a sign that he can keep acting a fool and still get away with it. But losing $40 million, even if you didn't actually possess it yet, still hurts quite a bit. But that's what you get when you act like a complete idiot while you're on camera. If Kendrick Perkins admitted to not voting for Ja because of his off-the-court drama, then there are certainly other NBA All-Star voters who chose not to vote for Ja for the same reason. If he had not been involved with any of this drama, he would have made one of the All-NBA teams, and he would have made another $40 million on his contract. But Ja can kiss all that money goodbye now. It's all long gone now. And Ja will be lucky if his next contract is anywhere near as big as the current one was. Because if he plays at the same level that he's been playing at this year, there ain't no way that his contract is going to be as big next time around. No team is going to want to pay big money for a stagnant player with off-the-court issues. Ja is really going to have to ball out if he wants to make more money than he did this time when free agency comes around. But luckily for Ja, free agency for him is a long way off, and he still has plenty of time to rejuvenate his public perception and show the owners that he is worth paying top dollar for. And that's provided that Ja doesn't do anything else to butcher his reputation. It's going to be an uphill battle for him though, because not even 2 months after this first gun incident, Ja's stupid ass went and pulled the same exact kind of stunt all over again. And that leads us into our next section. When it comes to the next step in the epic Ja Morant drama saga, I really didn't expect this part to happen at all, and really no one did. If anyone says that they saw it coming, they're lying. Because in the aftermath of the very first gun flashing incident, the world was pretty sure that Ja Morant was never going to do this crap again. The NBA commissioner Adam Silver put it best when he said, "I was shocked when this happened."
Honestly, I was shocked when I saw this weekend that video. Now, we're in the process of investigating it. And we'll figure out exactly what happened to the best we can then. It's the video's a bit grainy and all that, but I'm assuming the worst, you know, but we'll figure out, you know, exactly what happened there.
Not even 2 months after the first gun incident at the strip club in Colorado, Ja Morant decides that he wants to, yet again, brandish another gun while being recorded on Instagram Live.
So instead of you just being in your house, buying all the guns you want, playing with all the guns you want off camera, you want to get in trouble for having a gun at a club, give a bullshit apology, and then show a gun on Instagram Live.
And in case you didn't hear me the first time, this was the second time in 2 months that Ja Morant pulled out a gun and flashed it on camera on Instagram Live.
And we got Ja Morant for the second time in a month and a half after that joke of a rehab thing, waving a gun in a vehicle.
I've heard of NBA young boy, but you NBA dumb boy.
The only real differences between the first time and this time is that he wasn't in a strip club the second time, and someone else was holding the camera. That someone was, of course, the one and only Davonte Pack, Ja's infamous best friend, whom he refers to as his brother on multiple occasions. And a couple of Ja's cousins were in the back of the car as Davonte Pack recorded this cringy-ass video. They were all hanging out in what I would assume is one of Ja's many, many cars. They were all listening to NBA YoungBoy's annoying-ass music, having a grand old time, not a care in the world. You can barely understand even a single word from anyone. The music itself is barely understandable, and the guys in the car are butchering the lyrics so bad that no one has a hope in the world of understanding anything that comes through the camera. But what you can very clearly see, if only for a brief second, is the handgun that Ja pulls out midway through the video. Needless to say, the world went just as crazy as it did the first time Ja Morant pulled out a gun on camera, if not more so because this was the second time in such quick succession. The Grizzlies immediately suspended Ja Morant from all team activities, pending a league review, which didn't really count for much because it was the middle of the summer and nothing was going on with the team, so it's not like Ja was missing very much. The punishment for this would not be delivered for another few weeks after the incident happened. The NBA wanted to wait until after the 2023 finals before they announced the punishment that Ja would receive. And while that might have seemed like a good idea at the time, they probably should have just ripped the band-aid off and be done with it once and for all, just to get it over with. But they decided to wait, and so the story was dragged out for even longer than it probably needed to.
In terms of the timing, we've uncovered a fair amount of additional information. I think since I was still asked about the situation, I would say we probably could have brought it to a head now, but we made the decision, and I believe the Players Association agrees with us, that it would be unfair to these players and these teams in the middle of the series to announce the results of that investigation. And given that we're, of course, in the off-season, he has now been suspended by the Memphis Grizzlies indefinitely, and so nothing would have changed anyway in the next few weeks. It seemed better to park that at the moment, at least any public announcement. And my sense now is that shortly after the conclusion of the finals, we will announce the outcome of that investigation.
The whole media landscape would be talking about this non-stop until the verdict came in. If they had just given us the punishment right then and there, eventually the world would have gotten over it, like it has now. Everyone is still making jokes about how Ja is going to make it back to the hood, but it's not an active part of the news cycle anymore. If Ja Morant does anything else that's stupid, you can believe that they're going to bring all this stuff up, but I haven't seen much in the news about Ja Morant ever since the punishment was announced. Fortunately, with this story, there wasn't really too many different versions of it. We all had a pretty clear idea of what happened because it was all on camera, so the media was able to keep everything pretty straight. But the one big rumor that popped up after the second video was released was the possibility that the gun was not in fact a real gun. This rumor first showed up on the Breakfast Club radio show via Claudia Jordan, who is a regular guest on the show. Here is the clip.
My sources say that the relative in the car in the backseat had a toy gun in the car. The gun is not real, and was playing around with it, passed it over to Ja, and that got caught on the line. He had it in his hand. Now the video was sent to Adam Silver, NBA, allegedly. They have it, and they said the gun looks extremely fake, like it's obviously a toy gun. But according to my source, allegedly, Adam Silver is still going to go through with the suspension, looking like it should be about 30 games, even though they know it is a toy gun. I know the NBA has an image, and it's a private company, they can do what they want, but I just want it to be known that it was not a real gun. And how do y'all feel about it?
First off, the gun is not obviously fake at all. That gun looks real. So the source saying the gun is obviously fake kind of hurts their credibility and makes me not want to believe anything that source said in the first place. Because the gun that Ja pulled up in that second video looks like a Glock. Now, if the source had said that the gun was a deceptive-looking lighter and had admitted that it does look real, then this source would have sounded a lot more credible to me. But Claudia Jordan saying that the source said that the gun was obviously fake is what throws me off quite a bit. And about 2 weeks after the second gun video happened, the fake gun story was backed up by a subsequent video of Ja playing with a lighter that looks identical to a real gun. I've seen those products online before. They do look very real, but they're just lighters. But that does not mean that the gun that Ja flashed was fake. Davonte Pack put down the camera awful fast for that gun to be fake. And even if it was fake, the cameraman treated it like it was real. He put that camera down like the gun was real. So if the cameraman is treating the gun like it's real, then why shouldn't the rest of us? If Davonte Pack knew that that gun was fake, why did he put the camera down so fast? Riddle me that, please. If the gun actually was fake, wouldn't Davonte have left the camera up and let Ja pull the trigger on it so we can see that it's a lighter right then and there? It was supposed to be a lighter that looks like a gun, right? So shouldn't you have shown the world right then and right there that the gun was fake, instead of dropping the camera down super fast as if Ja was holding up a real gun? That's why no one believes the fake gun story, because everyone on camera treats the gun as if it's real. And even if the gun is fake, I don't think that really even matters that much. Adam Silver made an excellent point when he addressed this very question.
The very issue is, for Ja, certainly in the first incident, was treating a gun as a toy. I mean, that's what we're talking about, and that's what I think the danger is to society. Taking a gun, live streaming it, without getting into gun issues in terms of the propriety of owning guns and the use of guns. I think everyone agrees that gun safety is critically important and that guns aren't toys. You are live streaming something that to the world looks exactly like a gun, and in a frankly reckless manner. Should it matter whether or not it's a real gun? I mean, I will say at the end of the day, in terms of doing my job, everything that's presented to us is relevant. Past conduct is relevant. The circumstances in which you're doing whatever the act is becomes relevant. And in this case, obviously we're going to take into account whatever's presented to us.
Even if the gun was fake, it's real enough looking that you could still get yourself or others hurt by carrying that around. If a cop saw anyone holding a realistic looking gun lighter like that, you would be shot dead before you could tell him it's just a lighter. And the same goes for pretty much anyone holding a gun. If the gun looks real, whether it's fake or not, and you're living in America, you'd better be damn careful with who you point that at. So with all that being said, I am of the opinion that Ja Morant deserves whatever punishment came his way from the NBA front office. The people who are defending Ja, the ones who have been saying that the NBA should let him do what he wants as long as he doesn't break any laws, those people are about as bright as Alaska is in the middle of December. Some of those people were saying that Ja should sign with the NRA and make a stance that he is allowed to have guns and that he can show them off if he wants to. And legally speaking, Ja could do that, but the consequences from the NBA Association would be dire if he did something as stupid as that. That would be career suicide, make no mistake. Nick Wright made this comparison, and I think it's a pretty good one. If Ja was releasing explicit content on one of his social media platforms, the consequences would have been very similar to what Ja received for the second gun flashing incident.
If Ja regularly put out pornographic images, the NBA would say stop, and if he was like, okay, I'll stop, and then did it again, he would get in trouble.
And no one would have batted an eye. If Ja Morant had done that, releasing explicit images, you wouldn't be hearing people saying that he should go sign a contract with Hustler and make a stance for that. No one in their right mind would make a suggestion like that. So why are people trying to get Ja to sign with the NRA and go directly against the NBA's ruling? Like I said before, that's the equivalent of career suicide, because the NBA would see that as a huge threat to their authority, which it would be, and they would come down hard on anyone who tried to pull any crap like that. I know Adam Silver is the softer commissioner between him and David Stern, but he would not tolerate a threat to the NBA's authority like that. No way. Joe Dumars wouldn't let it happen. So I don't want to hear anyone in the comments saying that Ja did nothing wrong or that he should just go sign with the goddamn NRA or whoever. That's stupid.
Well, first of all, I got to say something, man. We got some idiots, some fools, some jackasses on television that really just piss me off, talking about Ja should make a stance saying he didn't break any laws, he didn't do anything wrong, we're in a state where you can carry your gun. Those guys are just freaking idiots.
The only reasonable path for Ja Morant after the second gun flashing incident was for him to just accept his punishment from the league office and get through his sentence without further incidents. Like I said before, in the aftermath of this second incident, the NBA said that they were going to wait for the finals to be over with before they announced the punishment.
In terms of the timing, we've uncovered a fair amount of additional information. I think since I was still asked about the situation, I would say we probably could have brought it to a head now, but we made the decision, and I believe the Players Association agrees with us, that it would be unfair to these players and these teams in the middle of the series to announce the results of that investigation.
Which meant that everyone was going to be talking about this nonstop until we got the final verdict. There was all kinds of speculation going on. The comments in every video related to this was buzzing with speculation about what the punishment would be. Many people thought, or at least they hoped, that Ja would get suspended for the entire 2024 season. Others hoped he would lose half the season.
We're seeing January. 40 games. Show some toughness.
JJ Redick went viral for his take on this. Here's the clip. He was much more reserved and player-friendly like you would expect.
No law has been broken. I'm not condoning the behavior. I'm not saying there should be no punishment. There should be consequences. You are the face of the league. You are representing the NBA. You are a role model to young kids. All of that. I don't think half a season is the right answer. And the last point I want to make, because you bring this up, the guns on social media. We talk about consequences. Look, in our country right now, gun culture is pervasive. It's pervasive. We've got mass shooting after mass shooting, and nobody's doing a damn thing about it. So I get why we're so sensitive to this right now. But there's no consequence for Greg Abbott telling his constituents that they should go buy more guns, and then we have mass shooting after mass shooting in Texas. There's no consequence for an elected Tennessee official to send out a Christmas card holding AR-15s with his young family, and then there's a shooting in his very district. There's no consequences to that. So why are we trying to lay down the hammer on a 23-year-old who didn't break a law? Explain that to me.
He was of the opinion that a 40-game suspension was way too much. And he makes a compelling argument for it too, because if Miles Bridges only got 30 games for pleading no contest to a felony domestic violence charge, then you can't really drop the hammer on Ja Morant, who technically didn't break any laws. What Ja did was super ultra embarrassing and cringe as all hell, but it was not illegal, and no one else got hurt in the process. What Miles Bridges did was super illegal, and he hurt other people in the process. And all he got for his crimes was a 30-game suspension. So while it would have been satisfying for a lot of people to see the NBA suspend Ja Morant for the entire season, it would have been just plain unfair if the NBA had done that. Like I said, what Ja Morant did was the epitome of cringe. It was embarrassing for the entire NBA, everyone involved, especially Adam Silver. It was beyond stupid, and it was downright dangerous, especially if he had pulled that crap in the wrong area. And the guy lives in Memphis, so there's a whole lot of wrong areas around where he lives. Pulling a stunt that stupid in that city, that's just crazy. Like, Memphis is one of the realest cities in the whole goddamn country. So I can understand why the public was clamoring for such a harsh suspension. But that doesn't mean that it would have been fair if the NBA threw the book at Ja. If Ja had brought the gun into the team locker room, like Gilbert Arenas did, then sure, a heavy punishment would have made sense. There would have been precedent for that. But in Ja's case, he wasn't around anyone who was associated with the NBA when he pulled the gun out for the second time. He did not threaten anyone with the gun. He never shot the gun at all, as far as we know. So it would have been real difficult for the NBA to justify a full season suspension. And you can believe that the Players Union and the Players Association would have fought tooth and nail against a suspension that harsh.
Open carry allowed in that state, assuming he has a permit for whatever it may be. No law has been broken.
In the end, the NBA decided on a 25-game suspension that would start at the beginning of the 23-24 season. 25-game suspension means that Ja is automatically disqualified from getting any accolades at the end of the season, because with the new CBA that's in place, players must have at least 65 games played during the regular season in order to be eligible for awards. With a 25-game suspension, the most amount of games Ja could possibly play is 57, and there ain't no way that he's going to make all 57 games. You know for sure that he's still going to miss a few, even though he had 25 games off in the beginning of the year. So Ja is just completely out of the running for any accolades this year. That's a big deal to players. So I think this 25-game suspension was like the perfect answer at the perfect time. The new CBA rules means that this suspension is really going to have some effect on Ja's season. So the people who wanted Ja suspended for the entire year might not have been happy with 25 games, but at least you can say that the outcome was fair. Those people should at least be satisfied with Ja not being able to get any awards this season. And Ja is a superstar, so accolades are an even bigger deal to him because he needs to be able to justify his gigantic salary if he wants to get another gigantic contract when this one goes up. So I think a 25-game suspension is the perfect amount. It's not too overtly harsh, but it does take away any chance of accolades at the end of the season. Hopefully there won't be a next time because of this punishment. But the best we can do is hope, because this is Ja Morant that we're talking about here. Who knows what the guy's going to do? But let's leave this chapter there, and we'll move on to the final thoughts and some other things I want to say, and then we'll wrap up this video. This section is being added very late in the production, which means it is not connected to any one particular event that we have talked about thus far in the video. But this subject was important for me to bring up, so I had to make sure I included it somewhere. What I want to talk about in this section is Ja's very obvious drinking problem. I know he has said multiple times that he does not have a drinking problem, but just like so many other occasions that we have talked about in this video, that is some bullshit. Ja talks about drinking all the damn time, it seems like, when he is on Instagram Live.
They don't want to drink with me, y'all. I ain't gonna argue with you, but you gonna come drink. Yeah, tell her, come on. Tell her, come drink.
And if he is acting that way on camera, you can be damn sure that he is 10 times worse when he isn't being recorded. And Ja seems to be the one who is pushing everyone else to drink. So the problem lies within Ja himself, not the people around him, making it a much harder issue to fix.
Hey, I'm lit. I'm too lit. Matter of fact, that liquor got him talking.
I'm sure, or at least I hope, that he doesn't drink while he is playing basketball, but I would be willing to bet that he is over the legal driving limit on most of his days off.
I just want to drink, that's all. Can I get a bottle? I can drink the shot. No, you know what? I'm about to go get another. Nope, I don't want y'all bullshit. Nigga, you ain't drinking, get the bottle, bro. I'm gonna FaceTime you to take a shot, too. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who goes and have a drink. So, but because I'm on IG Live and, fans around the world, see it, I feel like they kind of, blew it up like, son was, Ja having the time of his life, he's living, which, I feel like I should, I achieved my dream. I feel like every day you should celebrate life, especially if you wake up that morning. I feel like you can never take life for granted. So, that's why I always preach to, my family and everybody, to always, be themselves and, enjoy life. But then you have some that's, always gonna be negative.
Yeah.
And I feel like you just be like, all right, oh well, I'm gonna do me, so.
This Icebox episode had a part in it that was pretty telling. Ja is describing how he and his buddies were active drinking tequila real early in the morning. And the dude behind the counter is like, no way, dude. That's crazy. Because that is very clearly a sign of an alcohol problem.
Y'all like 42? 1942?
Yeah, tequila.
We acted early this morning.
No way.
Right now. Right now. No cap.
No, you did not, bro.
We put a sprinter to the door and pull out 2 bottles right now.
You're not drinking on a Thursday morning, bro. You. How many shots you had?
2 bottles and 42.
For all y'all?
Yeah.
Y'all already ran through the bottles?
2 bottles. No cap.
2 of them. No, they're empty.
We had finished. Yeah, we finished.
I got it.
That dude on Icebox was like, you're really drinking on a Thursday morning? Like, he was really surprised to hear that. And Ja is just nodding his head up and down like a goddamn fool, not realizing that he is making himself look pretty bad. And then some other people in the video start questioning Ja about it later on in the video. They're like, do you really do that? Like, they can't believe it.
Is this going to be a Thursday morning thing that you do this 2 bottles, or is it just every day for 2 weeks?
Oh, no, 2 bottles just for right now. Okay. I got to them up with it. They just started.
And then you take all of that and you combine it with all of the Instagram Live sessions where Ja is actively going around trying to get everyone in the house drunk so that he is not the only one drinking.
Hey, get your ass outside and drink, man. You scared of the shit. You scared of the liquor and shit.
And then you have yourself an alcohol problem, at least the way I see it. No drunk wants to drink alone.
Come on, come drink. I might get another bottle, too.
Like I said before, this all means that Ja is the one who is the driving force behind all of this drinking. It's not his friends or his parents, it's him. He is the lonely drunk who is trying to get everyone around him to drink so he doesn't have to feel bad about it. I know all of this because I've been there. That was me once upon a time, and it's a telltale sign of a drinking problem. So I don't know why Ja tried to deny the fact that Ja does indeed have an alcohol problem, allegedly.
Ja, how much do you think alcohol has influenced your decision?
I don't got an alcohol problem, never had an alcohol problem.
Ja is like the Bert Kreischer of basketball. He drinks all the time and has a pretty serious problem with being able to stay away from alcohol, drinking it at very inappropriate times, yet he is always denying that he has an alcohol problem. You could have a doctor tell Bert Kreischer right to his face that he is a raging alcoholic and that he needs to stop right now, and Bert would look at him and say, no, I don't have an alcohol problem, and I think Ja would do the exact same thing.
I don't have an alcohol problem, never had an alcohol problem.
I mean, honestly, the world would feel a lot better if Ja just came out and said that he has an alcohol problem and that it has contributed to his bad decisions over the last year and a half.
That liquor got him talking.
Then Ja could get some help, and there would be a clear path to solving the issue. That's what Charlemagne was saying, and it's an excellent point.
It would make me feel better if they came out tomorrow and said, yo, he's got a problem with drugs. I'm serious. Or he got a problem with alcohol.
But if he really doesn't have an alcohol problem, like he says he doesn't, then it means that he has a stupidity problem, and that is going to be a much more difficult problem to solve.
Hey, I'm gonna be the only one in the league who show mother how I really live, man.
Shannon Sharp said it best when he said,
I see better than I hear.
And Ja himself was also right when he said,
Actions speak very louder than words, so.
He is absolutely right about that. Actions do speak very louder than words, just like he says, very louder. All this drinking at weird times and weird places.
We can put this on YouTube for the cameras. Ja Morant come at Icebox, have everybody take shots.
And trying to get others to drink with him.
Get your ass out here and drink.
And with his constant attendance at strip clubs all over the country, I think it is safe to say that Ja has at least the beginnings of an alcohol problem. But he definitely has a stupidity problem. That much is certain.
I sell the bottle of Ja for $10,000.
Every time.
Ja swears up and down that he does not have an alcohol problem and that he never has.
Ja, how much do you think alcohol has influenced your decision?
I don't got an alcohol problem, never had an alcohol problem.
While he brags about getting drunk on a Thursday morning.
Y'all like 42? 1942?
Yeah, you good?
We acted early this morning.
No way.
Right now, don't care.
That's the kind of thing an alcoholic does. I'm just saying. And like I said before, the world would honestly feel better if Ja had just came out and said that he has a drinking problem and that it contributed to all the drama and confrontations that he has been a part of over the last year and a half.
There's one more. You want it? No?
Alright, cheers, my guy.
I'll take both.
Alright. It's all you.
The icebox, man.
That liquor got him talking.
He would go to rehab for a while, and when he got out, he would have the full support of the entire world. No one would speak against him at all if he had done all that. But instead, there is no clear answer, and the world is free to speculate, just like I am right now. The first real step in fixing your issues is admitting that you do in fact have a problem. And it seems pretty obvious to me that Ja has an addiction to drinking and partying and going to the strip club and generally being reckless. So I think it would be wise of him to try and break those addictions. As hard as that is to do, it would do a great deal of good for Ja's reputation, his health, and his legacy. He needs to find a better way to cope with his stress than going to a fucking strip club, where they basically force alcohol down everyone's throat in order to keep the lights on. He has enough money where he can basically do literally anything else in the entire world. So he has no excuse whatsoever to be doing poor people shit like going to the strip club and getting drunk. It's so weird that that's what he wants to do when he has all that money. The strip club is for people who are not completely broke, but who are not really doing much of shit either, besides trying to look cool. You're not going to see anyone who's doing anything important at a strip club, unless they're a rapper or a basketball player. I would like to see him taking his game more seriously. I mean, the world is yours, Ja. Have some more ambition beyond the fucking strip club. And besides, it's not a good look for Ja when he goes out to the strip club the very same night that he gets bounced out of the playoffs. Going to the strip club after losses like that just shows that Ja does not have the drive within him to win. He is more worried about his comfort and his energy than he is about winning.
At this point in my life, man, I'm protecting my energy, bro.
The main point of this section is this. The heavy drinking just needs to stop. Ja is already reckless enough, and drinking will only ever make it worse. And Ja can already barely speak English coherently as it is. So I can only imagine how sloppy his speaking is when he is drunk.
Hey, that boy over here playing putt-putt. I know he drunk now, for real. I'm gonna let y'all know this boy is drunk now. Look at him.
So to all of the people around Ja, keep him away from the alcohol, please. It's just not worth it. And if he goes down, the whole ship goes down. So you guys have a vested interest in keeping him sober. I know it's fun being young, and you naturally want to have a good time at that age. But Ja lost the ability to do that when he got suspended for 25 games and embarrassed himself in front of the whole world twice. More than that, actually. Just because it is legal to drink does not mean it is harmless. When you have a $193 million contract, you can pretty much do whatever you want. So it does not make a lot of sense why he would want to do the one thing that poor people do all the time to cope with being poor. That is the ultimate irony. And it's actually hilarious that Ja is too dumb to see it. Heavy drinking is for poor people. There are so many better ways to feel good when you have money. Just sip on that tasty alcohol stuff when it's convenient and appropriate. But you don't need to be drinking the heavy shit like 1942 or like whiskey and hard alcohol. You don't need any of that.
Yeah, I've been on Casamigos. I'm gonna have to double back on 42 tonight, man.
And goddamn, dude, have some ambition when it comes to relieving stress. You know, like open up a gigantic spa somewhere or something. Broaden your horizons a bit. Don't just post yourself drinking on the internet and jeopardize your career. Jesus. Now that we have covered all of the major confrontations Ja Morant has been involved in, now it's time to say some last few things and finally wrap up this video. There was a ton of information to cover, and I hope I was able to deliver it all in a coherent and understandable way. All of these internet posts were brought up because they are all strong evidence that Ja Morant is obsessed with being perceived as a gangster.
You're the only boss man who's so good at acting like a rapper.
I don't know why he has that unhealthy obsession, but I do know that it is a big reason why Ja Morant keeps getting in trouble over and over again over the last year or so. It seems like he kept on doing reckless and crazy shit because he felt like a part of him wanted to be seen as a badass that doesn't care about the consequences. But as soon as the consequences started to get serious, Ja Morant was all about apologies at that point.
So now people going back to look at footage of you on the floor, and they're like, wait a minute, is Ja affiliated? Is he throwing up gang signs? Can you address some of those naysayers who are trying to portray you in that light?
I feel like, once again, my decisions, pretty much led to that. And now, with the, past decisions I made and, what's going on now, they try to find, pretty much anything on me. And, I put myself in those situations. I'm not affiliated with any gang. Like I said before, I don't condone it, any type of violence. And it's just pretty much on me to, from now on, to, be a better Ja and, stop that narrative.
But when you ask him directly why he's acting this way on the internet, he responds with this kind of shit. I really would like to know why Ja Morant insists on acting like he's a gangster. He has no real reason to act that way, and we all know that he's from a town that really isn't all that dangerous, where there really isn't that many gang members at all, if any.
And real gangsters may test him. Yes. Because you putting it out there like you in this world, and this is what you do, and this is where you come from, even though we know you didn't. Now a lot of them might test him, and he could get hurt, or worse, he could hurt somebody, or worse.
Which is why you're going to hear a lot of people talking about the fact that maybe NBA YoungBoy has something to do with how Ja Morant has been acting.
What is up with all this music you keep listening to? Is this music putting you in a trance, dumbass boy?
Because Ja is hooked on NBA YoungBoy, and if you listen to his music, you sort of see where Ja Morant is getting it from. And a lot of people are going to deny that music has any connection with how Ja Morant is behaving, but there really isn't a lot of reasonable answers on why he's acting this way. It doesn't make a ton of sense. He's a millionaire and has no real reason to look up to gangsters and thugs. Like I said earlier in the video, when we talked about this in its own section, I mentioned that Ja Morant looking up to a gang member is like the equivalent of a king looking up to a mayor. Yeah, the positions are very similar, but one is vastly better than the other. So why would Ja look up to a fucking gang member? That makes no sense. The only explanation that seems to be obvious is the NBA YoungBoy connection. If that's all Ja is listening to, it seems to be affecting his behavior. And that's why I brought up these internet posts, to try to show you that there is some kind of weird thing going on where Ja wants to be perceived as a gangster. I don't know why, but he is doing it. The only people who handle guns the way Ja did on camera are gang members and idiots. And if you are mimicking gang members on camera, you're basically condoning the shit that they do in a kind of way. Maybe it's not exactly the same as directly condoning it, but mimicking gang members on camera is still a form of glorification. And that is enough for me to say that he was condoning it. So I take real exception to Ja's choice of words in the Jalen Rose interview when he says that
I don't condone it, any type of violence.
Because, he kind of does. But what else do you expect from Ja Morant? The dude barely has a clue what he is saying, even in the best of times. I know that's a harsh thing to say, but it's the truth. Listening to Ja Morant is very difficult sometimes, and the shit that he comes out with on occasion is just downright stupid. And I'm really not all that surprised when he says blatantly wrong shit like this.
I don't condone any type of violence at all.
He probably just hasn't put two and two together to figure out that he did in fact condone at least one type of violence.
I don't even like to read, honestly.
Remember, Ja, actions speak very louder than words, remember? You said so yourself.
Actions speak very louder than words, so.
In my book, he condoned violence with his actions, and then he never really owned up to it when he was supposed to be apologizing. I mean, he definitely used ChatGPT for his second apology.
Ja Morant released the following statement last night. I know I've disappointed a lot of people who have supported me. This is a journey, and I recognize there's more work to do. My words may not mean much right now, but I take full accountability for my actions. I'm committed to continuing to work on myself.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he also used it for the half-ass apology that he said in the Jalen Rose interview.
It's not who I am. I don't condone any type of violence, but I take, full responsibility, for my actions. Now that I made a, terrible mistake, being inside a club and, went live, I put myself in, a bad position.
Like I said before, Ja Morant and words just do not mix, I guess. The world could not believe that Ja could be so stupid that he would do the same shit twice in 2 months. All of the apologies he did during the Jalen Rose interview didn't count for shit at this point, and everyone knew it. And neither did the apologies that Ja gave to the commissioner. Adam Silver had egg all over his face because of this second gun incident. Because Adam Silver was merciful the first time, and Ja repaid that mercy by doing the same shit again within 2 months.
An 8-game suspension was pretty serious, and something that he, at least to me, seemed to take incredibly seriously in that time. And we spoke for a long time about not just the consequences that could have on his career, but the safety issues around it. Could have injured, maimed, killed himself, someone else, with an act like that.
Even now, after everything is all said and done, Adam Silver is still getting questions about Ja Morant when he makes his TV appearances. Here's what he said about Ja Morant most recently on Inside the NBA on TNT.
So our folks at the league office have regular updates with Ja and the team. So we came up with a program together, a combination of counseling and other things he's doing to work through, frankly, his issues. He and I have not talked in the last several weeks, but again, people in the league office have. His progress report has been very positive, and I'm hoping he can put these incidents behind him. I mean, he's an incredible talent. He's a young man, at least in his direct discussions with me. He never made excuses. He acknowledged he made mistakes and then mistakes on top of mistakes. And we'll see. As I said last time, I mean, the proof will be in how he chooses to live his life when he comes out back into the league and performs on the floor.
Until Ja shows some clear signs that he is improving and changing his mentality for the better, there will continue to be questions asked about Ja whenever the media gets the chance. So hopefully Ja makes some moves to show the world that he is serious about changing his ways.
I won't change, for anybody.
Hopefully there won't be any additional confrontations or drama added to Ja Morant's legacy, but you never know when it comes to Ja. As things are right now, he will never fully live down all of the crap that he has done up to this point. If he was to keep doing stupid shit and get himself in even more trouble, the blowback from media and the public will be very, very severe indeed, even more so than the last time. Every time you see a video about Ja Morant, you're going to see someone in the comments making jokes about how he is trying to go from riches to rags, or how he's trying to make it back to the hood. That's going to become a tradition, I'm sure of it.
Well, normally you hustle to get somewhere. He hustling to move back.
I really believe Ja Morant could rehabilitate his image very quickly if he just cut off that childish hairstyle and did his best to be more approachable for the media.
I honestly don't care, bro.
And also did a public denunciation of gun violence and the gangster thug image in general.
I'm one of the hood members, man.
If he did those things, it would go a long way in the public's eye. I mean, right now, it's damn near impossible to get a decent interview out of Ja Morant because he talks like a third grader and because he is too damn impatient to give real answers to the media. If Ja was to change those things, along with his hair, he would be a brand new person, almost. And the media would eat that up, and so would the public. And they would write all kinds of positive stories about Ja Morant and how he is bettering himself. But I haven't seen any signs that Ja is doing anything like that. He still has his same old haircut, and he is still just as aloof and difficult to talk to as he always was during interviews.
I don't got nothing to say to that either. I just said I'm protecting my energy. I'm not responding to nothing like that. No more entertaining, none of that.
So I'm not going to hold my breath that Ja makes any significant changes to his public personality, but I can continue to hope. And I really hope that Ja chills out with the arrogant trash talking. I hope we don't hear any more sound bites of Ja saying crap like this.
I'm fine in the West. I would have cooked them too.
You would have cooked Michael Jordan?
Nobody got more confidence than 12.
Ja needs to learn some humility and how to talk himself up without having to put others down in the process. It's really not that hard when you think about it. All he has to do is choose some words that don't make him look like an arrogant punk. And if Ja is going to insist on talking shit to the entire league, hopefully he figures out how to back that trash talking up.
They said the Memphis Grizzlies, they do a lot of chirping when they're winning. But when they're losing, they don't say a word. It's annoying.
Being the number 2 seed last year, only to get knocked out of the first round of the playoffs by the 7th seed Lakers, after all the trash talking the Grizzlies did last year, was as embarrassing as it can possibly get for a basketball team. No wonder the Grizzlies kicked Dillon Brooks off their team with no looking back. The Grizzlies organization as a whole was embarrassed after the playoffs last year. And a big part of the reason it was so embarrassing was because of all the trash talking and bragging that Ja Morant did on national television only a couple of months prior to the playoffs. So let's all keep our fingers crossed that Ja Morant keeps his big old mouth shut and simply focuses on the game of basketball and focuses on getting better. Otherwise, he just might find himself being traded in a year or two. If the Grizzlies get embarrassed again this year like they did last year, you can believe the Grizzlies management will start looking at alternatives. Ja's trade capital is very high right now, but it's not so high that he is completely untouchable. Honestly, it wouldn't even be that bad of a thing to see Ja get traded away. Going to another city might help Ja out quite a bit, but that's really not going to happen unless Ja keeps messing up and keeps on embarrassing the Grizzlies team. For now, Ja isn't going anywhere. He is just too good of a player, and it would be stupid for the Grizzlies to trade him now. As you saw in the clip earlier, according to Adam Silver, Ja Morant has been on his best behavior over the last few months, and everyone at the league office is happy with Ja's progress. And I'm genuinely happy to hear that, but I'm not holding my breath that Ja will stay out of trouble forever.
Progress report has been very positive, and I'm hoping he can put these incidents behind him. I mean, he's an incredible talent.
I'm sure it's only a matter of time before he does something else that is newsworthy. I just hope that he doesn't pull out any more guns on camera. If he does, you can believe that I will be making another video to talk about it. Ja's escapades are just too damn interesting for me to ignore. It would be one thing if he was to make a totally different kind of mistake, but to do the same stupid mistake 3 times in a row on camera, that is just unforgivable, and there is no way I could let that go without talking about it. So I really hope Ja keeps his hands off of his guns for the foreseeable future, because I want to be able to talk about other stuff from here on out. I'm sick of talking about Ja Morant, and I'm sure he doesn't want me to talk about him any more than I already have. This video took a lot out of me to make, and I want to move on. But if Ja messes up again in the same way that he did before, I'll have no choice but to talk about him again, because the next time that Ja pulls this same kind of crap, it will be an even bigger media firestorm than it was the first 2 times, and I would be stupid to not talk about it. Right now, Ja is at 2 strikes, and I really hope he stays that way. But like I said a million times before in this video, I'm not going to be holding my breath. The only thing anyone wants to see from Ja Morant is for him to play great basketball and to shut the hell up with all the trash talking and dreams of being a gangster, and to stay off Instagram Live completely for the rest of his basketball career. No one wants to see Ja Morant on Instagram ever again. I think we can all agree on that.
People are checking for what Ja Morant has to do on Instagram.
Everybody followed him 2 Instagram lives ago.
Where is Ja?
The best thing that Ja Morant could do for himself right now is a nice rebranding, like I mentioned before. Cutting his hair would go a long way in showing the world how serious he is about becoming a top-tier player that is a different person from the one he was 6 months ago.
Cut his hair, get rid of the dread look, and he got a nice-ass fade haircut. That positive image, he cut his hair, that's gonna be shot. Every news article is gonna be talking about just that.
We want to see a brand new Ja Morant, reborn from the ashes of his old personality. A much more serious and hardworking Ja Morant would win the world over in a matter of days, especially if the new haircut he got was nice and fresh looking. Ja still looks like the same old troublesome kid that he was 6 months ago because he still has that goofy ass haircut with all the colors in it. Shave that shit off and get a nice fade or something else that is more traditional and more mature looking. The world wants to see Ja Morant the man, not Ja Morant the boy. I'm telling you guys, a haircut would go a long way in rehabilitating his image. Gilbert Arenas was the first one to bring up that idea, and I think it's a really good one. If Ja Morant was to do a big rebranding of himself and hire all new support and security staff for himself, and maybe get rid of some of his toxic friends that are encouraging him to be reckless, I think all of that would be just about enough to get the media off of Ja's back and onto his side once again. You would see the media start to write more positive articles about Ja if he were to make those changes, and you would see more videos that are tilted in his favor rather than criticizing him. And I can't say it enough. The two things that would really help the most are getting a haircut and getting rid of toxic friends. Those things alone would go a super long way in rehabilitating Ja's reputation. Ja has already taken the first step in getting rid of his toxic friends by unfollowing Devontae Pack on Instagram, but Devontae Pack needs to be excommunicated from Ja's life completely. That dude simply has to go. He has become a liability to Ja's reputation, and he will be a constant reminder of the mistakes that Ja made in the past. Because every time Ja got in trouble in the past, Devontae Pack was either directly involved or he was nearby encouraging Ja to do reckless shit. Devontae was in both of the gun flashing videos. He was at the Foot Locker incident, the volleyball incident. He helped beat up the teenager. He was at the Pacers fight, and I'm sure he was involved with a whole bunch of other occasions or confrontations that we don't yet know about. Because, like Andrew Schultz said, if there are 10 incidents that we know about, that means there are really more like 40 incidents that have been kept quiet by Ja's handler. Because you don't have somebody with this much money who doesn't have a handler.
Oh yeah. He is a handler on the team that is with him all the time, that knows he's getting fights during pickup games, knows he's flashing a gun, doing all these things like that. You do not have a max player without a handler.
And I'm sure Devontae Pack was involved with most or all of those other incidents that we don't yet know about. So that dude has to go, permanently. Devontae Pack is just a liability, and he's gotta go. I'm not saying Ja can never see the guy again, but they cannot be seen together in public any longer. And Devontae Pack needs to be away from Ja on a day-to-day basis. Devontae's influence is too damaging to Ja Morant to be worth keeping him around. Friends can and should be replaced, especially when that friend has become a liability to your massively valuable basketball career. There is no friendship in the world that is worth giving up a basketball career over. So hopefully we will never see Devontae Pack again when it comes to Ja Morant and basketball. Anyway, enough about that. There are still some things that we need to talk about. Hopefully, Adam Silver's leniency does not come back to bite everyone in the ass, though. 25 games should be enough of a punishment to deter Ja Morant from doing any more of the dumb shit that he does. 25 games means that Ja Morant is not going to get any accolades this year, and that is a very good thing if you ask me. Ja needs to feel left out and underappreciated this year because he needs to bounce back next year and be even better than he was ever before. Hopefully, the combination of Ja not getting any accolades and him being ranked so low by ESPN on their top 100 active players list will push Ja to play better than he ever has before. I really am rooting for the guy, and I want to see him succeed, but you can believe that I will be there to talk about his mistakes if he ever messes up again like he did over the last year or so. Hopefully that does not happen though. Like I said before, I want to move on to other stories and be able to forget about Ja Morant when it comes to making videos. I'll always be watching him play whenever I am able to, but I don't want to have to focus on him again like I did for this video. There are other fish in the sea, and I want to talk about something different next time. So let's all cross our fingers that Ja Morant does not mess up again. He is perfectly capable of developing into a top 10 player in the league. Some say that he is already there, but I disagree with that. I think he is in the top 20, but not the top 10. And Ja's antics are very harmful to the public perception of how good of a player he is. You know, that's why ESPN ranked him so low on the top 100 list. If Ja keeps these antics up, it's going to really seriously affect his next contract. Teams do not want to pay players the big bucks when that player gets himself into all kinds of media trouble that also hurts the team. The Grizzlies want the media to talk about basketball, not the stupid shit that Ja Morant has been up to off the court. So fingers crossed, everyone. Let's hope that Ja gets his shit together, gets a haircut, and plays on a level that he has never played on before. I want to see Ja Morant improve in a noticeable way while he is on his unpaid vacation. I hope Ja is in the gym all day, every day.
Gritting your ass in the gym. Ain't nobody need to see it.
And I hope he is off of the internet and away from the strip clubs. All I want to hear from Ja Morant is how much he is working out and how much he is improving. Any other news about Ja Morant is not only unwelcome, it would be a genuine problem. He needs to be on his best behavior and completely off of the media's radar. No strip clubs, no parties, no public appearances outside of charity. Ja should be off the radar completely if he is smart, which he is not. So I'm sure we will hear something about him soon. And hopefully the Morant family stops being a liability to Ja's basketball career. His mother Jamie needs to chill out when she goes to the mall and when she goes to her kids' sporting events. Who cares what people say? There is nothing anyone could say that is worth causing more drama over.
His mom got to stop putting Ja in harm's harm's way. You got to stop calling your son. Your son is not an enforcer. You do realize that your son is Ja Morant. You do realize that he's an NBA player.
The Morant family name needs to be kept out of the news in a negative way for a good long time. And the last thing that Ja needs is for his family to drag him into any more drama. T is a supportive father for sure, but he is also known for getting rowdy sometimes, and Ja doesn't need any of that anymore. And T also needs to stop acting like he's one of the boys. He needs to go back to being Ja's father and actually try to keep Ja from doing any more dumb shit. Stephen A. Smith was talking about this on First Take.
I would remind you, sir, you are his daddy. You are not his boy. And the reality of the situation is that on far too many occasions, remember when there was the altercation in the Staples Center involving Shannon Sharp and stuff like that? Dad ended up in the middle of that.
I mean, T. Morant got all excited during the Shannon Sharp confrontation, and we don't need any more of that. I was going to talk about that in its own section, but I ended up cutting that part out. It wasn't relevant enough to Ja's story. But the Morants were there that day, and T was seen talking a lot of shit to Shannon Sharp. So both of his parents are kind of a liability to Ja's reputation at this point. They both need to just stay under the radar and focus on being parents rather than a distraction. Ja needs positive press coverage only right now. Anyway, that's all I've got for this video. It's been a long one, for sure. Not the longest one I've ever made, but it's still a lot of work. I'm eager to get started on the next one, so make sure to leave some suggestions down below on what I should work on next. If you made it this far into the video, use the words long-winded in a comment down below so I know who listened to the whole thing. I doubt I will see many people saying those words, but a boy can dream, right? Be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. I have no subscribers, and it would really light a fire under my ass if I was able to get a couple thousand subs and maybe, validate my ego a little bit. A couple million would be a lot better, but I'll settle for a couple thousand for now. And also, if you really like what I'm doing, feel free to check me out on my Patreon in the description. Anyone who signs up to it will be my beta readers and my confidants. Once I get a Patreon community going, I'll have some awesome plans on how to make it fun and worth your guys' time and money. I gotta start somewhere though, so for now, I'll be happy with you hitting the subscribe button and leaving a comment. But alright, that's all I got. I'll see you guys on the next video on the Hoop Stories channel, the next best basketball commentary channel on YouTube. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you guys on the other side.